Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Ray Fisher Stadium on this Wednesday afternoon, April 17th. I am Max Brill, joined by Austin Falco for today's matchup between the Michigan Wolverines and the Bowling Green State Falcons. Now, Austin, these midweek games have kind of been Michigan's kryptonite so far in the season. They dropped one to Indiana State last week, and they have two losses at home this season, the other one coming to Minnesota in the Friday game during that season. What do you think the Wolverines have to do today to kind of keep the momentum that they built up on Saturday against Ohio State going?
Well, really what it comes down to is when you look at the losses this season for Michigan, they have to play all 9 innings, whether it's on the mound or more specifically at the plate. You saw last week, specifically in that 2-game set against Indiana State, the first game of that series in which they lost, they had a lead in the 7th inning and 8th inning before surrendering it and losing in extras, and looked to honestly be on the way to potentially making it a close game after jumping out early on Wednesday before that game was called just a little bit early. Have to finish, have to keep the bats consistent all game long. They've had solid pitching in these midweek games, which isn't always what you expect necessarily. And with only one midweek game this week, Eric Bakich can go to all his top arms that he wants to throw. So pitching shouldn't be an issue. It's just going to come down to keeping the pressure on offense.
Yeah, Michigan facing a familiar foe today in the Bowling Green State Falcons. They played a weekend series against them last year, swept them 3 straight, 8-6, 10-7, 5-4. So we'll likely see some offense in this one, especially with Michigan going with Angelo Smith, their midweek starter, their bullpen, not necessarily as strong as their weekend guys. And we're about to get started here at Ray Fisher Stadium. Angelo Smith looking in at Mike Malowitz, the right fielder for Bowling Green State. And here's the first pitch. It's high and away for ball 1.
And Smith this season has been good. He's been a reliable arm in these midweek as in kind of an opener for head coach Eric Bakich this season. This is his 3rd start doing this and has been the more reliable of the ones that Bakich has tried.
Smith outside again. 2-0, yet to find the strike zone so far through 2 pitches. Obviously still early, but this is something we've seen with Smith. He's very capable of putting hitters away quickly, but he also has a tendency to get behind and lose them. The 2-0 breaker called for strike 1, so 2-1 is the count.
Yeah, as you said, it's been the problem his entire time in Ann Arbor. He has electric stuff, can strike out just about anybody in the country, but can also walk anybody.
Malowitz high into center field. Franklin with the catch, and 1 away here in the first for Michigan.
I mean, ideally you want ground balls, but when you're getting lazy fly balls like that from Angelo Smith, you're not going to complain. Fell behind in the count 2-0, made a couple good pitches to fight back in it and retire Malowitz right there.
So now we've got Jeff Scott, the senior left fielder for the Falcons. 107 hitter on the season. He started just 9 games so far. Let's take a look at the defense for your Wolverines. In the outfield, Clemente, Franklin, and Lewis from left to right. Jimmy Kerr starting at 3rd, Jack Blomgren at short, Blake Nelson at 2nd, and Matthew Schmidt at 1st as Scott takes ball 1 away. Angelo Smith and Harrison Salter, the battery on this Wednesday afternoon. Smith looks in, gets his sign, working from the windup, the pitch. A breaker, catches the outside corner for strike 1. 1-1 here with 1 out. Smith, a 3.72 ERA on the season. Sets and fires. This one driven by Scott deep to left field. Clemente under it. And it goes off the wall. Bounces all the way to Franklin in center, and Scott will have to stop at second base. Clemente looked like that he had that one lined up, but that wall out there in left center field, a little bit of an angle. It's a tough play out there.
Yeah, I mean, especially for someone that hasn't played out there much at all this season, Clemente, when he's been in the lineup, has been a designated hitter and had a shot at that ball. It looked like might have bounced a little bit above his glove, right on the angled part of that left field wall. If Smith, or rather Scott, if he hits that a little bit farther to his left, it probably makes it over that wall in left field. Just managed to find where it dips out just a little bit farther, a little well out there, and made it a tough play. He ends up with an extra base hit no matter what.
So now stepping in and fouling off the first pitch is Jake Wilson, the center fielder. Last year against the Wolverines in their 3-game set, he went 1 for 5 with a walk, an RBI, and a run. And back to Clemente for a second. Clemente, an all-Big Ten selection last season, played on Cape Cod, the most illustrious collegiate baseball league in the country. So, pitch to Wilson taken low. Clemente definitely is a good fielder and can handle it with the bat, but just not able to come up with the play there.
I mean, Clemente, throughout his time in Ann Arbor, has been relegated to almost just a bat, playing DH more than anything, and he does have quite the bat. He's average up there with the best on the team last season.
As Smith gets the swing and miss from Wilson. Strike 2, count 1-2.
But it's still, I think it just comes down to a lack of playing, specifically here at Ray Fisher Stadium with that left field wall. He had a beat on it, knew exactly where to go, just kind of ran out of room. It was tough play against that wall. And to be fair, it'd be a tough play for just about anybody.
So Smith comes set, the 1-2. Induces the ground ball. Sliding stop by Nelson, and he fires to first. Schmidt with the catch and the out. So Smith able to work around that double so far. Runner on third, 2 out. And Brad Croy, the first baseman, stepping up to the plate. He's the cleanup hitter for the Falcons this season, hitting .347. He's got 2 home runs and 5 doubles, so clearly can handle the bat.
And just going back to Jake Wilson there, really good piece of hitting. Angelo Smith had him down in the count 1-2, gave him a breaking ball, almost the exact same spot he swung and missed at, but he would just get the bat hit on it and pull it to the right side to advance the runner to third.
Croy takes low for ball 1, and one of the interesting things about Croy is he's not listed in today's lineup as a pitcher, but he is a two-way guy for the Falcons. Last year, coming in for them in Saturday in relief, throwing 1 1/3. Smith's pitch, taken down the middle for strike 1. Count 1-1 to him. So he went 1 1/3, gave up 2 earned, 2 walks and a strikeout, and then also that same weekend went 2 for 5 at the dish with 2 RBIs. So this is a guy for the Falcons who is a big contributor to both their offense and their pitching staff. Croy takes away now for ball 2. It's 2-1.
Yeah, I mean, Croy, anytime you have a two-way player like that, it was Cronenworth a couple years ago for Michigan. I was able to go back and forth, play both ways. When you have a guy like that you can put on the field every single day, it's just a more reliable presence on both sides of the ball.
And Croy, the high chopper. Smith forgets to cover first, so that'll be the first run of the game. The Falcons score first here in the first inning and lead it now 1-0.
Yeah, that's just a mental error there by Angelo Smith. Won't go down in the scorebook as an error. It'll be an RBI base hit for Croy. But really, that's on Smith. He saw the high chopper, stood there on the mound and watched it for a second. By the time he realized he has to get over to cover first, Croy was just about there.
So Croy gets the RBI. You can't assess an error for a mental lapse. Neil Lambert will step in, the shortstop for Bowling Green. Hitting .347 on the season. Leads the team with 35 hits. The lefty facing the lefty here. First pitch from Smith is driven out to left center field. Franklin ranging over, but coming up with the sliding catch is Clemente. And it pops out of his glove, actually, so Lambert slides into second safe. Clemente having a little bit of a rough go of it here in the first inning. And the Falcons will have second and third with 2 outs for Riley Minorick.
And I'm not sure Clemente just thought he had a better read on the ball there, but I think it was probably Franklin's play to make. It was a little more towards that center field gap. Franklin looked like he was there and then backed off to let Clemente slide in front of him. And it looked like it was going to be an easier play for Franklin.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Franklin was going to make the play on that ball. Clemente came sliding in at the last second. And so Michigan in a little bit of trouble here in the first inning. 2 outs, runners on second and third, and facing Riley Minorick, who despite hitting 6th in the order can handle the bat. He's hitting .255, 7 extra base hits this season, and 11 RBIs. Not much of a power hitter, just a .321 slugging percentage.
Does have some power to the gaps, though. 7 doubles on the season already for him. Just like Lambert there, who now has 8 after that one.
And he takes for strike 1. Count now 0-1 to Minorick.
And Smith really using that breaking ball early on here to throw hitters off balance, whether it's on 0-1, whether it's starting at bat, down in the count 2-0, ahead in the count 1-2. Just at any point, anytime you can get hitters guessing, it's a positive.
So Smith's offering, grounded down to third. Kerr scoops it up and fires over to Schmidt to end the inning, but the Falcons strike first. They lead it 1-0 here after 1/2 inning, and the Michigan Wolverines coming to bat. You're listening to WCBN Sports Ann Arbor. I'm Max Brill, joined by Austin Falco for today's game in Ray Fisher Stadium. The Michigan's lone midweek game this week. This weekend they'll play Northwestern in a 3-game set. And Northwestern in the middle of the Big Ten. They're at 5-4, just a half game behind the Michigan Wolverines. It's been a really tight conference so far this season. The top 7 teams separated by no more than 3.5 games. So that's definitely, I mean, whoever wins this conference, it's going to be a dogfight until the end.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Michigan, you obviously wanted to come off with a little bit better start. 5-3 is not bad by any means, but you feel like you definitely left some games, winnable games out there at home against Minnesota. You want to obviously win every single game you can at home, but having taken the other two, you feel like you probably could have swept that one. At Ohio State last weekend, felt like you probably could have taken at least one of the other two games that you lost. It just comes down to some timely errors, especially when the Wolverines are on the road. I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit later on. But as you said, it's a dogfight right now in the Big Ten, and no matter who wins, they're all bunched up right now. You can make up for a bad weekend with a good weekend the next. That's the bright side of what's going on here early in the Big Ten schedule.
So for the Wolverines here, it'll be Jordan Wogu, Jesse Franklin, and Dominic Clementi to start things off. And Wogu, the leadoff hitter this season, is really an enigma for this Michigan team. He's an incredible athlete, played baseball and football in high school, and had offers to play Division I football in college, but ended up staying in Ann Arbor. The hometown kid went to Pioneer right down the road, and he's been a force for the Wolverines this season. There's no other way to slice it. He's got 3 home runs, 14 extra base hits in total, a .561 slugging percentage, and he's gotten hot over the past couple weeks. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what he has in store the rest of his sophomore season.
And when it comes to Jordan Wogu, you can always kind of see it in the frame. There's a lot of power there to be used by Wogu. Hasn't quite shown it to its full potential here, but over the last couple weeks, as you mentioned, a couple of home runs to put on the scoreboard, really raking to go with that average, bringing the power numbers up as well. And that's what you want to see out of Wogu. Possibly maybe next season. Right now he's hitting so well in the leadoff spot, you probably don't want to move him, but could potentially be a middle-of-the-order type of hitter driving in runs for you maybe next season.
And you see his frame. He idolizes Bo Jackson, and you can definitely understand why. I mean, that's another incredible athlete, a two-sport professional star. And Wogu now digs in. He'll face Chase Antle, the starter for the Falcons today. First pitch from him is lined down the first base line. That's a base hit. So Wogu slips coming around first, but backs up safely. And the Wolverines have a man on to start it off.
We talked about Wogu really driving the ball. That was just about the exact opposite. Got one out in the hands, had a little inside-out swing, and just kind of willed it past the first baseman, Croy, there. Not a particularly tough play, but just outside of his outstretched glove and into right field. And when you're hot, I guess.
So Wogu safely on first, and it'll be Jesse Franklin now, the left-hander, starting center fielder for the Wolverines this season, hitting just .238. But a pretty incredible .394 on-base percentage considering where his batting average is at. Antle sets on the mound, and Franklin takes the first pitch away. Now Franklin, one of the more highly touted professional prospects on this Michigan team. He's their starting center fielder, got a lot of action at first base last season because of an injury, and I know, having talked to some scouts on Cape Cod this past summer, a lot of guys didn't really view him as more than a 3rd or 4th round pick, but that was before he came out and played center field like an absolute stud.
I mean, yeah, his defense has been absolutely incredible, following up from Engelman and before him, Slater.
Pickoff moved. Wogu slides back in safely.
It was going to be a tall order to man center field here in Ann Arbor, and he's really just stepped up, and there's been no drop-off, maybe even an improvement. That's no knock on Engelman last season.
Yeah, Franklin, I mean, the defense has been stellar. Coach Eric Bakich has said that in all of his years of coaching, Franklin is one of the best defensive outfielders he's ever seen. As Franklin takes a pitch on the outside corner for strike one, count now even at 1-1.
I mean, you watch Franklin, and just the jumps he gets in center field are incredible. The second the ball hits the batter, even before in some cases, he's already sprinting to exactly where he knows the ball is going to be. He's made plays in the gap and near the wall that it looked like they had no shot off the bat.
Pitch from Antle is taken high. Count moves to 2-1, and that's something you really can't teach with Franklin, is that sixth sense about baseball. The ability to get good reads can be taught, but for a player to have the kind of innate ability that Franklin has is not something you see every day, especially at the collegiate level.
You can teach good reads, as you said, but you can't teach that almost sixth sense feeling of just knowing before the ball's hit where it's going.
So the 2-1 to Franklin, taken outside 3-1. And this is something we've also seen Franklin do especially well this season, is draw walks. This season he's got 28. That leads the team. And he has struck out a fair bit also. He has 28 strikeouts, but a 1-to-1 ratio, nobody's going to complain about that.
Exactly, and he's works counts. That's really what it comes down to. Every time I see the strikeout number, I'm surprised because it seems like he's never really striking out when it matters. If he needs a tough at-bat, needs to stick in there early in the game, late in games. He can do that.
The 3-1 is taken inside. Just catches the inside corner, actually, so the count moves to 3-2, but Wogu swipes second base, so a runner in scoring position and a full count now for Jesse Franklin. Dominic Clementi waits on deck.
And Tyler Haas, the catcher, really had no shot on that one. The breaking ball looked like, or maybe a bit of a slider moving down and in on Franklin. Caught the inside corner. Haas had to come up and threw it over Lambert's head, who was covering the shortstop. Minerick was backing up and caught that one.
Payoff pitch now to Franklin. He swings and misses on a high fastball. That's the first out of the day for the Wolverines.
It looks like I jinxed Jesse Franklin there a little bit. Talk about it seems like he doesn't ever strike out. Does so right there, but still, work the count full, even when he's not necessarily putting the ball in play. Every single time he's at the plate, he's going to make the pitcher work in his at-bat. And down the line, that really bodes well for the Wolverine lineup, especially in a midweek game where bullpens are going to be at a premium.
Yeah, you're never going to complain about a 6-pitch at-bat when a guy runs the count full. If you could get every guy in the lineup to run the count full, you're going to get to that bullpen quickly. So Dominic Clementi, another left-hander, stepping in against Antle. Antle looks to second, now fires home. Fastball taken high and away for ball 1.
You mentioned Clementi. We talked about his defense out in left field, but really coming around with the bat. This season, the numbers don't look terribly impressive, hitting just .220, .319 on base percentage, but certainly a hitter capable of batting over that 300 mark. Did so last season. From that left side, a very valuable bat that head coach Eric Backus has used off the bench, starting sometimes this year as well. And with Jordan Brewer out, is in there in the 3-hole.
So Clementi takes another pitch high and away for ball 2, and it's 2-0. Now, Antle having a little bit of trouble finding the strike zone here so far. Ran the count full to Franklin. Obviously, Wogu lined the first pitch into right field for a base hit, but now he's behind 2-0 on Clementi, and this is something you do see in midweek games is sometimes, especially in this kind of weather, the pitchers just have trouble throwing strikes.
I mean, it's a little humid out there, so maybe a little bit.
And Wogu takes third. Haas there, the catcher, double clutching and allowing Wogu to just get 90 feet away. So a fly ball here from Clementi should do it, especially with Wogu's speed.
I mean, 3-0, I'm always a big proponent of the 3-0 green light, and I definitely give it to Clementi here if he can get something that he likes. As you mentioned, Anto a little bit wild, so no guarantees that. Don't want to be chasing and swinging at something that you're just going to roll over. But if you can get one you can drive, definitely go take a swing at it, in my opinion.
So 3-0 is the count to Clementi. The pitch is taken high and away for ball 4. So the Wolverines will have runners on the corners here for Miles Lewis.
And it looks to me so far that Anto doesn't have control of that fastball. And when you don't have control of the fastball, everything else seems to spiral. A lot of times if you're pinpointing a fastball, you can get away with breaking balls that aren't quite in the right spots just because hitters have to be so aware that you're able to put that fastball exactly where you want it. Anto does not have that right now. His catcher goes out there to talk to him before he faces Lewis. And it showed really in that at-bat with Clementi. 3 of those pitches were fastballs that just were nowhere close to the zone.
Yeah, Antle this season has a 10.07 ERA in 12 appearances, 19 2/3 innings. So it's not even a small sample size at that point. I mean, this is a guy who's struggled with command, 22 walks in 19 2/3 innings. So Lewis, the switch hitter, batting from the right side, drives the first pitch, a little pop-up behind the first base bag. Croy can't find it and eventually comes up with the basket catch. Wogu breaks for home, and the throw beats him by a mile. That's a double play for the Falcons, and it'll do it for the Wolverines in the first. They have an opportunity to score, but come up empty. No runs, 1 hit, 1 left, and at the end of 1, it's the Falcons 1, the Wolverines 0. You're listening to WCBN FM Ann Arbor.
And that's just a really heads-up play there by Croy, the first baseman. Made the basket catch running away from home plate, immediately spun and fired, and made, most importantly, an accurate throw to home plate. If that throw's a little bit off, Wogu maybe has a chance to slide in there. And I can't really fault Nick Schnabel for being aggressive there and having Wogu tag and go, not holding him at third base. Just because you got that run 90 feet away. With 2 outs, nothing's guaranteed. It was going to be a tough play, it looked like. Croy made that one look extremely easy, firing up plenty of time. But still, really tough to locate the ball, run away from where you have to throw, immediately plant, and throw back, especially for a first baseman, not necessarily used to doing that on the regular.
So Smith will come out here for the second. Gave up 1 run in the first. Taking his warm-up pitches here, Harrison Salter, the catcher, saw a little more action last season than he's seen so far this season. And that's by nature of Joe Donovan, the Wolverines' usual catcher, getting completely healthy. He was drafted coming out of high school. The commitment to Michigan, everybody knew he was coming, so didn't want to waste a high pick on him. And, Donovan's done a pretty good job, made a pretty good name for himself so far this season in Ann Arbor, so he's cut into Salter's playing time.
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned there, Joe Donovan's really come and just kind of taken over that role. I know a couple weeks ago struggled, or rather last week in the midweek, kind of struggled behind the plate defensively. Did Donovan. Salter came in, looked good, so potentially working himself in, starting with the defense, working his way into the lineup a little bit more for Salter. As you mentioned, Donovan has the pro aspirations, but Salter not too shabby, again, specifically on defense, as I mentioned.
So Smith's first pitch is a fastball in for a called strike. Count now 0-1 to the 7th-place hitter, Tyler Haas, the catcher for the Falcons. This season he's hitting .212, just a freshman, so he's got time to improve. He's got a wide-open stance, really crouches in there and swings and misses through Smith's second pitch of the at-bat. And just like that, the count is 0-2.
There's Smith again mixing up the pitches, going fastball, then off-speed, and really can go either direction here with this next one.
No balls and 2 strikes to Tyler Haas. The pitch, taken just a little bit outside. The crowd wanted the strike there. Count now 1-2.
Yeah, Salter tried to frame it and get that call, but nothing going there from home plate umpire Stuart Hall.
Smith working from the windup here with nobody on base. Nobody out. 1-2 pitch, taken inside. Smith wavering a little bit on the command there. Tried to throw the fastball on the inside corner. Got it just a little too far inside, and Haas had to move out of the way.
He's done a couple of fastballs in a row here. One inside, one outside. Trying to switch it up, go inside out with Haas. Wouldn't be surprised now to switch up speeds, maybe eye level with this next one.
So the 2-2. Swung on and missed. Strike 3, and Angelo Smith picks up his first strikeout of the day on the freshman catcher Tyler Haas.
And right on cue there, Smith going what looked like a changeup, moving down on Haas. Got barely a piece of it, but Salter was able to squeeze behind the plate and secure it for the tip there and strike 3.
So Anthony Smith now the batter for the Falcons. He's the designated hitter today. Went 2 for 6 with 2 runs and a walk last year against Michigan. Smith's first pitch, a curveball taken for strike 1. And that's exactly what you're talking about, Austin. A great pitch mix from Smith. He's got some of the best pure stuff on the team. And so if his command is on, I mean, there might not be a better pitcher on this staff.
I mean, we've seen him come in and just absolutely dominate innings where hitters don't look like they have a chance against him.
This ball driven out to right center. Tailing away from Franklin, it'll be Lewis making the catch for out number 2.
And even when batters, if they're off balance, you're going to get swings like that where you're hitting it in the air, but you're hitting it weakly or relatively weakly in the air, not able to square up balls just because you don't know exactly what's coming at any given time. You're swinging under the ball, popping it up, putting it in the air. If you're expecting a breaking ball, just as you mentioned, a lot of good pure stuff from Angelo Smith.
So Ryan Johnston now, the third baseman, steps in. Another freshman for Bowling Green. Swings and misses at the breaker, and that's just nasty from Smith.
Absolutely no chance there for Johnson at the plate. I mean, you come in as a freshman, you come here to Ann Arbor in a big midweek game, and you get that as your first pitch.
Yeah, kind of a welcome to the show, and then Smith misses high and away with a fastball, so the count moves to 1-1. Johnson this season hitting just 180, so I can't imagine that it was a warm welcome with that curveball. You look for something to hit on the first pitch, and you get that. You're hitting 180. I mean, that's kind of just a sign of the whole season. Smith's 1-1 is inside, so count goes to 2-1.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're in a slump like Johnson is here, especially as a freshman, you want to come on campus, make your make your name known, make a good first impression. You're in the starting lineup, and you see a pitch like that to start off, take a big swing at it, and it just disappears.
And a swing and a miss there from Johnston. Count now 2-2 with 2 outs. Deuce is wild here for Angelo Smith.
That was the exact same pitch he started the at-bat with, that breaking ball moving down and in. It's worked twice. Wouldn't be surprised to see it again.
The 2-2 from Smith. He throws that pitch once again, and Johnston finally gets a piece of it, but just barely fouls it off down the third base line.
It looked like that one was a little bit more up, not really bearing down and at the feet of Johnston. Was able to just barely get a piece of it. Still pulled off it, got on top of it, but maybe timing it up a little bit better.
The 2-2 again, another fastball high and away from Smith. So after getting ahead now, the count full with 2 outs to the 9th-place hitter, Ryan Johnston.
And I was talking with Ansel how if you don't have the fastball control, it can be hard to set up your other pitches. When it comes to Angelo Smith, he's got that curveball control, almost sets up the fastball.
And he walks Ryan Johnston on 7 pitches. A good at-bat there from the 9th-place hitter. That's something he's been able to do this season. He has 4 walks in 17 starts, so not a terrible walk rate. And able to reach base there. Turn the lineup over to Mike Malowitz, who flew out to center field in his first at-bat.
It'd be interesting to see how Angelo Smith plans on attacking this lineup the second time around after they did a little bit of damage to him in the first.
So Smith sets now, working from the stretch. The pitch, a fastball taken on the outside corner for strike 1. Nothing doing down there from Johnston. I mean, he's no intention of stealing down there first base.
Not at all. With the lefty on the mound, really just trying to get a read potentially on when he throws to the plate, try to get a good secondary at that point.
0-1 from Smith is taken high and away. Ball 1, so the count now even, 1-1.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Johnson, 0 stolen base attempts this season even. When he gets on base, not really a threat to be going. As you said, just a freshman, maybe in the future can grow into that a little bit more, but just very, very cautious over there right now.
1-1 from Smith. Taken on the outside corner, a fastball, strike 2, and the count now 1-2. Mike Malowitz behind. And Austin, you want to talk about 2 diametrically opposed teams. Eric Bakich, known for being aggressive on the base paths. Bowling Green State Falcons have just 30 stolen base attempts in their starting lineup today. So Smith sets now the 1-2. Looks in, gets a sign, and the delivery strikes out Malowitz on that curveball, so that'll do it. Smith picks up 2 strikeouts in the inning, both swinging. Bowling Green, no runs, no hits, no errors, and because of the walk, 1 man left. We played 1.5 here at Ray Fisher Stadium. It's the Michigan Wolverines 0 and the Bowling Green State Falcons 1. You're listening to WCBN FM Ann Arbor. Michigan Wolverines baseball. I mean, a good inning there from Smith. Came back after getting knocked around a little bit in the first. That's what you like to see, bounce back with 2 strikeouts.
And really didn't have the fastball command much of that inning, save for that last at-bat against Malowitz, where he's able to locate a couple of fastballs right on the corner. But primarily use that curveball to set up the fastball. I mentioned last inning when it came to Chase Ansel, didn't have the fastball command. Angelo Smith didn't really have the fastball command there, but his breaking ball was so good that hitters were constantly looking for that, and the fastball proved to be effective in a couple of cases on getting a fly out, getting a couple of swings and misses, getting a couple taken strikes even later on in that inning.
So a good inning there from Smith. Looks like we're going to have a new pitcher here for Bowling Green State. So going with the bullpen approach today, it's going to be Daniel Barato, the senior left-hander. And we saw Barato last year against Michigan. He pitched in the Saturday game, and this is a guy who's been around the block for the Bowling Green State Falcons. He's a senior. This season, a 4.71 ERA in 12 appearances, all out of the bullpen. 21 innings pitched, so he's kind of been one of the guys they've gone to out of the bullpen this season.
Yeah, go-to guy there for Bowling Green, without a doubt. And really, coming up this inning, you've got Kerr in that second spot, who's one of the Wolverine run producers this season, possibly trying to get a lefty-lefty matchup here, something that Kerr has struggled with this season specifically, save for a couple at-bats here and there. Just want to get through this game as efficiently as possible if you're Bowling Green, as pretty much you do with every midweek game, no matter what, here in college baseball, unless you're a team that has, say, 4 ace starters that you can throw out, 3 on the weekend, 1 in the midweek. Neither of these teams really do going with bullpen days today.
Yeah, this isn't a strategy that's become too uncommon in college baseball recently. Midweek game, just got to throw the kitchen sink at the other team and hope you come out victorious on the other side. And you talk about having those 4 aces for a potential midweek game, just able to throw out starters. Michigan could have been that team at the beginning of the year, but unfortunately, 2 of their starters, Steven Hadger and Ben Dragani, going down with injuries before the year, so they've been left a little thin at the pitcher position. Blake Nelson now, the cleanup hitter for the Wolverines, take the first pitch. A little high for ball 1. The book now closed on Chase Antle. Not a whole lot to talk about there. 1 inning pitched, no runs, no strikeouts, 1 walk for him. Nelson lines the 1-0 pitch foul down the third baseline.
And when it comes to these midweek games for both teams, you're really, as you mentioned, kind of across college baseball. You throw the kitchen sink. You hope one guy gets hot during a game necessarily and can put together a 4-inning performance like we've seen this year for the Wolverines out of, say, Walker Cleveland.
Nelson, right up the middle, past a diving Lambert and into center field. So a base hit for Blake Nelson to lead off the second, and this is the second straight inning where the Wolverines have had their leadoff hitter on base. Something you definitely like to see if you're Eric Bakich, a guy get on base, nobody in front of him, and the opportunity to get the guys going, on the base paths, maybe some stolen base opportunities.
Yeah, I was about to say that exact same sentiment there. Maybe try to be aggressive here, try to get that tying run on the board. A little bit tougher now with the lefty Barato on the mound, but you probably, I would really look at sending Nelson at some point during this at-bat with Kerr, especially with the lefty-lefty matchup that Kerr struggled that you don't want him rolling into a double play and kind of ending the beginning of your inning.
So Kerr takes the first pitch high for ball 1. Kerr this season has made his presence known. I mean, he's a senior on this team, so people know who he is already, but he's got a .280 average. He's hit 6 home runs, and he even picked up a 5-hit game at one point this season. I mean, he's been doing it all for the Wolverines on offense. The 1-0, a curveball, completely misses up. Just didn't get over the top enough there.
And a good idea there by Barato if he's able to really flick that wrist, really get that curveball down, get that break on it. That has been Kerr's Achilles heel, is the lefty-lefty breaking ball. If you can go to that, if you can hit that successfully if you're Barato, you've got a solid chance against Kerr in this at-bat.
And Kerr drives this one deep to right field. Forget about that one. That one is way out of here. Jimmy Kerr, a 2-run home run. I mean, off the bat, Austin, that was just an absolute bomb.
Did that ball clear the building out there? I think it did. I'm pretty confident that ball cleared what used to be the gymnastics building out just over the right field wall. Absolutely demolished. I mentioned the breaking ball would be what Barato has to go to. He threw a fastball and definitely paid for it. What a swing from Jimmy Kerr. Can't wait to get the numbers on that one of how far it flew. That one's easily 400 feet plus.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's 320 down the line there in right field here at Ray Fisher, and that was just perhaps, it literally could have been 100 feet past the fence. That was an absolute bomb. So now it'll be the 7th place hitter, Jack Blomgren. He takes the first pitch for a strike. Blomgren this season a .317 hitter after struggling with the bat last season, ending the season on the interstate. He's hitting over 300 this year, so you can't complain about that offensive turnaround if you're Coach Eric Bakich. Blomgren takes the curve low for ball 1. The count now even at 1-1.
Yeah, you mentioned Blomgren. Really, we've talked about it on broadcast before. He was in the lineup last year primarily because of the glove. This year, coming around with the bat and showing the promise that made him a highly touted freshman, got him into the lineup to start things off last season.
Blomgren pops the 1-1 foul down the first baseline, but it's going to get out of play into the Bowling Green bullpen, and count will move to 1-2.
I still just can't get over that hit from Jimmy Kerr. I've been here a few years watching some Michigan baseball, and I'm fairly confident that probably is the longest ball I've ever seen hit here. And Drew Lugbauer absolutely raked for a few years here from Michigan, really crushed a few balls.
Yeah, so we've got the numbers on the home run. 106.3 miles an hour off the bat and 412 feet, which is, I mean, that's a shot. Blomgren takes high for ball 2. So count now even at 2-2. And we've seen this from the Wolverines this year. They've just hit the ball harder, I feel like. Last year's team, obviously a good team, but they had that 20-game winning streak they rattled off. But this season, I mean, Jordan Brewer, you've seen a handful of 100-plus mile-an-hour batted balls. Jimmy Kerr, all of these guys really contributing as Blomgren laces it foul down the first baseline to stay alive.
Yeah, you mentioned pretty much up and down the lineup, everybody's hitting the ball hard, it seems like. Just about anybody in this lineup, 1 through 9, on any given day, has the potential to come up with a huge extra base hit, drive one in the gap, drive one over the wall. And like you said, especially out of guys like Kerr, guys like Brewer, guys like Wogu, guys like Franklin, who have just been absolutely tearing the cover off the ball at times.
The 2-2, Blomgren laces it foul again and will do it again. I mean, this is a great at-bat from Blomgren. This is what you like to see from the bottom of your lineup, even if they're not necessarily getting hits, making the pitcher work. And this is Barado's first inning of work, yet to record an out despite giving up 2 home runs.
And we saw this a little bit out of Blomgren at the end of last season, starting to come around just a little bit more with the bat. You could see him working counts.
And called strike 3 there on Blomgren. He didn't love the call. Looked like it could have been on the corner. Definitely, a close pitch to take. The scoreboard didn't agree. They have 3-2 up there.
The scoreboard operators maybe way of protesting here. On home plate to Stuart Hall. Yeah, that was outside.
So Matthew Schmidt, the first baseman today, a senior, walking up to one of my personal favorite songs, Kiss Kiss by Chris Brown, T-Pain.
Classic.
Schmidt swings right through the first pitch for strike 1. This season hitting just 125, but he does have a double.
He's 1 for 8, so not a ton of time this season. Has walked once as well, gotten on base, scored a couple runs. He scored both times he's been on base.
The 0-1. Schmidt, a little flare behind the first base bag, foul, and not able to get it is Brad Croy. A good effort there from him. We've seen some solid defensive effort there from Croy in the first inning. Very astute play, grabbing the basket catch, firing home to nab Wogu at the plate, and just there, the foul ball slightly beyond his reach.
Yeah, we've seen the athleticism, as you mentioned, out of Croy so far in this ball game. A lot of first basemen don't even get there and get close to getting a glove on the ball. Able to chase down what was more of a knuckler off the bat of Schmidt and crashed into the wall. Thankfully, he's all right over there. But just really hit top speed going backwards, not something you see out of many first basemen.
So Schmidt now behind 0-2. Takes the curveball outside for ball 1.
Very similar pitch to the pitch that struck out Blomgren. Just a little bit farther, didn't break quite as much to get back near that outside corner.
So Barado now looking in. He'll work from the windup. The 1-2 to Schmidt. Another curve, and Schmidt gives that one a ride to left center field. Under it is Jeff Scott, and he makes the catch, but probably about a 370-foot out there from Schmidt. Allowed out for sure.
And just got a little bit under that one, did Schmidt. As you mentioned, just a double this year is his lone hit, and he's got to be feeling solidly about that swing. 2 strikes on you, you're able to drive a ball, as you mentioned, about 370 feet. Got a little bit under. If he's able to pull a little bit more, square it up a little bit more, he's got himself another extra base hit on the season. Just you want to see continual progress, especially if he's going to be in the lineup more in the coming weeks.
So now Harrison Salter, his first at-bat of the day here. The catcher for the Wolverines and the 9th place hitter takes a curveball away for ball 1. Salter this season a .278 hitter. He started 6 games for the Wolverines. Scored 2 runs, 1 extra base hit on the year, and 5 RBI. Salter, a sophomore, swings right through a fastball there from Barado. Count now 1-1.
Yeah, and as you said, Salter, limited action at the plate. He's come in a couple times to pinch run, come in for defensive purposes late in games a few times as well. Love to see him come out with a bat and have 2 viable catchers on any given day.
So Salter now takes outside for ball 2, and the count now 2-1 with 2 outs. And like I said before, Salter's a guy who can definitely handle it with the bat. He's hitting .278. He was solid last season, but when you get a guy like Joe Donovan who comes in and just seizes that starting catching job, it's hard to find time, especially at a position where defense is at such a premium. Salter there hitting the 2-1 pitch, high into left field. Jeff Scott under it and makes the catch. So the Wolverines take the lead back in the bottom of the second inning. They get 2 runs on 2 hits and 1 monster shot from Jimmy Kerr. Nobody left on base, and at the end of 2, it's the Michigan Wolverines 2, the Bowling Green State Falcons 1. You're listening to WCBN FM Ann Arbor, Michigan Wolverines baseball.
Yeah, big 2-run shot there from Kerr to give the Wolverines a lead. And even with just a 1-run lead, it almost feels a little bit differently if you're Michigan and Angelo Smith going out there with a lead instead of going out there down 1, having the pressure on. Keep your team in the game and let your offense kind of take over. Your offense has done a little bit of work here early on. We've seen the Michigan offense can keep it up throughout the ball game. If they're scoring early, you want to see them score often, obviously. If you're a pitcher, your mindset almost changes. You're out there with a little more confidence. You see that number on the scoreboard, and you feel like if you have a slip up 1 or 2, your offense is able to take care of it, especially when they're hitting the ball hard as they've done here early on in this ball game.
Angelo Smith now out for third inning of work. There's some action in the Michigan bullpen. Nobody warming up with purpose, but some people milling about out there. Joe Donovan out down there by the plate. There's a right-handed pitcher. Looks like it could be Isaiah Page. Still has his pullover on, so not warming up with purpose or anything like that, but some action down there in the bullpen in case Smith gets in trouble here.
And Page, whenever Michigan's kind of played 2 midweek games, has been the other starter for the most part this season. When they go back-to-back last week against Indiana State being one of those occasions where Page started the first game, Smith started the second game. Both as openers, not necessarily viable starting options quite yet here in Ann Arbor, but definitely guys that can go out there, eat up 3-4 innings for Eric Bakich before turning it over to some of the bullpen arms that are going to go maybe 1 or 2.
So Angelo Smith now back out for his third inning of work. He'll face the number 2 hitter for the Falcons, Jeff Scott, their starting left fielder. He doubled in his first at-bat off the left center field wall and takes inside for ball 1.
And Scott has a little bit of power in there. As you mentioned, went off the wall. It's just his second double. This is his second extra base hit this season. It was a double. Struggling to really put the ball in play, but when he does have some pop. We showed it there in the first.
So he takes right down the middle for strike 1. The count now even 1-1. Smith comes set and fires, and Scott rockets it foul down the third base line.
And it's just a violent swing from Jeff Scott, really. He's crouched down in that right-handed batter's box, almost looking ready to pounce. Very similar to how Jordan Brewer from Michigan crouches down in that right-handed batter's box and explodes to the ball. Unfortunately, Scott not too patient of a hitter.
1-2 from Smith is sent into right center field, and that one will get down in the corner. Lewis comes over, fields it off the wall on a bounce, and Scott comes into second standing up. And a leadoff double here for the Falcons. Maybe now down in that Michigan bullpen, they'll start warming up with a little more purpose.
Yeah, second time that Scott has tagged Smith for a hard hit double. That one just did a good job there on 1-2, staying in there and taking what he was given. Pitch on the outside part of the plate, just drove it down that right field line with authority. Mentioned that violent swing. He came into this game 13 strikeouts to 1 walk. If you're Angelo Smith, you probably didn't want to put a ball in the zone there, but he left it in a spot where Scott could hit it, and he did.
So Jake Wilson now comes up to the dish, the center fielder for the Falcons. Michigan shifting over a little bit with the lefty. First pitch from Smith is inside. It's 1-0.
I've seen a lot of shifting out of Michigan, especially this season, it seems, more than most. Against just about every single team, even teams you wouldn't necessarily expect a full scouting report on in Bowling Green or even Indiana State last weekend. A good job of the advanced scouting for Michigan.
Smith fires the curveball in for strike 1. 1-1 now to Jake Wilson. And Wilson against the Wolverines last year, 1 for 5 with an RBI, a walk, and a run. A familiar opponent. Smith comes set now, working from the stretch. And a bunt laid down by Wilson. That's a beauty. Smith comes off the rubber, fires to first, and safe at first base is Wilson. So that's going to go as a bunt base hit. And Austin, we've talked about this ad nauseum, but you and I, neither of us fans of the bunt, but if you're bunting for a hit like that, there's nothing to complain about.
Yeah, there's very much a difference between sacrifice bunting and doing exactly what Wilson did right there. And let's put an absolutely picture-perfect bunt down the third base line at a spot where you force Smith, the lefty, to have to go over field, stop all his momentum, and fire back to first base. Just an absolutely brilliant bunt there, and there's runners at the corners, nobody gone here. A chance to retake that lead, at the very least, tie the game.
And time is called. Coach Chris Fetter will walk out to the mound and pay Angelo Smith a visit. And Austin, I challenge you to find me a fast pitching coach in the entire country. I mean, I feel like these guys just lumber out to the mound. It's like,
I think that's kind of your orientation there. If you're a pitching coach, you're learning how to be a pitching coach. First and foremost, you start off, got to get the walk down. You have to take at least 15 seconds to get from the dugout to the mound. Doesn't matter how far away it is. In a place like Oakland, for example, you need to get at least a minute total time in commuting back and forth, I feel like.
100%. Especially in places like Oakland, you don't really have stadiums like that anymore that have a ton of foul ground. You get the new stadiums like Atlanta just opened a new stadium recently. The Mets and Yankees within the past 10 years have both opened new stadiums. I mean, not a lot of foul ground, but you have to take your sweet time if you're a pitching coach.
Of course. And I don't know if necessarily as a pitcher that's something you like or don't like. I'd imagine it really depends on the pitcher. You just want to kind of get the meeting over with, get what he has to say out of his mouth and get back on the rubber. But in some cases, especially like Coach Chris Fetter here working with these collegiate guys, especially a young guy like Angelo Smith, probably wants him to just relax, calm down, still kind of learning in high-pressure environments like this one how to manage a ball game from the rubber.
So the first pitch now to Brad Croy, the four-hitter, is rocketed into left field. That might get out. It's off the top of the wall, and it bounces right into the hands of Dominic Clemente. Throws to second. Croy trots in safely, an RBI double for Brad Croy. He's responsible for both of the Bowling Green runs today.
Yeah, just an absolute rocket off the bat of Croy. Clemente had no chance on that one. First of all, hit way too hard for him to even get there. Second of all, hit too high off of that high brick wall. If the fence is as short as it is across the rest of the outfield, that ball's gone. Obviously a little bit shorter there in left field. But still, just when you're hitting the ball like Croy is, you're going to end up racking up the RBIs as he's done with his 2 hits on the day today.
And Coach Eric Bakich now walking out to the mound. So that'll be all for Angelo Smith. He's responsible for the runners on second and third. He's also allowed 2 runs in his 2+ innings pitched. Didn't record an out here in the third inning. Looks like it'll be the redshirt freshman we were just talking about, Isaiah Page, coming in and getting some action for the Wolverines.
And I mean, it's really nice for head coach Eric Bakich to have the option this week to try both guys, Smith and Page, see who has the hot hand per se and can go a few innings. Look like Angelo Smith just didn't quite have command of his entire repertoire today, save for a few batters here and there. And that really cost him when you have to kind of get a little more predictable early on in counts to prevent falling behind and then getting extremely predictable and say a 3-0 count or a 3-1 count. Ended up paying for it, especially this inning where hitters are jumping out early on in the count. There's 4 pitch at bat on the double, 3 pitch at bat on the single. That was a first pitch double there by Croy. Just kind of these hitters learned what to expect from what to expect from Smith, and just went out there and attacked it.
Yeah, and as you mentioned before, Page, one of those guys who can go out and just get outs. He hasn't done it via the strikeout this season. So far this year, if I'm not mistaken, he's only got 9 strikeouts, and he's thrown 26 2/3, so not a great strikeout rate. But he also doesn't issue very many free passes. He's only allowed 4 walks on the season, and he's got a 2.36 ERA, so somehow he's doing it. He just gets outs, and you know, when you have that guy in the middle of the week that you can just go to who can just put hitters away, that's always something that you can appreciate, especially out of the bullpen.
And the Wolverines have a couple guys like that. They got Page from the right side, and from the left side you got Walker Cleveland, 2 very similar players when it comes to their stat profile. Don't walk a ton of guys, don't strike out a ton of guys, but get a lot of soft contact. Don't get killed with extra base hits in the long ball very often. And that really helps, especially if you're in a jam like this one. You might end up giving up a run, but at the same time, if you can keep the ball on the ground or induce a weak fly ball, you got a shot at potentially maybe throwing a runner out at the plate, getting a double play at some point during this inning, working yourself out of a jam where you've got a couple runners in scoring position with nobody out.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, runners on second and third, nobody out. So Page coming in an unfamiliar situation. Generally, he's entered games in clean innings. We'll see if he's able to adjust here. And, you know, off the field, this is not something a lot of guys talk about, but Isaiah Page, quite honestly, one of the most impressive people that I've seen on this Michigan team. He did an interview with WCBN earlier this year, so if you haven't listened to that, go check it out. It's on our YouTube channel. And just talking about his rehab from his injury, really an incredible story, and just how much perseverance he had. He talked about not only having to do the physical rehab, but it's a mental thing when you have baseball as this part of you for so long, and all of a sudden it's taken away. He's bounced back excellently and been a real contributor to this pitching staff. So Page now, his first pitch, a fastball taken low and away for ball 1.
As you mentioned, not that he really needed to be humbled, Isaiah Page, but in a sense almost humbles you when you have to go through something like he did and work your way back up. As you mentioned, you played baseball for so long, it's taken away from you. Really really helps you realize what value it has in your life as a baseball player, as a guy with aspirations such as Isaiah Page. You kind of learn to appreciate and enjoy it a little bit more, and it's awesome to see him have success.
So the 1-0 a little outside to Neil Lambert, the shortstop for the Falcons. Lambert in his first at-bat lined a double in and out of the mid of Clemente. Last season in the weekend series, he went 3 for 13 with 3 runs, 2 walks, and an RBI. Page now looking for his first strike of the day. The 2-0. Fastball taken just inside for ball 3, and now Page facing a similar issue to Smith. It could just be coming in and starting from the stretch. A lot of people underrate how much of an effect that can have on you in the beginning of an inning.
Yeah, and when he's missing, he's not missing by a ton. He's keeping the ball low around where the targets are being set by Salter behind the plate. He's not wild by any means, just doesn't quite have that command down, as you said, coming into the game.
So the 3-0 pitch is lined into center field. Franklin ranging over. Makes the diving catch. An insane play from Jesse Franklin. And that's exactly the defense you signed up for. I'm going to be honest. I was about to say it doesn't look like he's going to get there. But you can never say that with Jesse Franklin. I mean, full extension there in center field. Easily saved a run. And obviously the runner coming home, Jake Wilson, scoring on the tag up. Michigan appeals. Rule him safe at third base. So Bowling Green takes the lead back. But Jesse Franklin, I mean, that is gold glove caliber defense right there.
Yeah, we were talking about the jumps he gets on the ball. I was kind of thinking the same way you were. There was no chance he was getting to that ball, and he just covered, it seemed like half the outfield, sprinting over there and leaping, catching the ball in midair on that full extension dive, lost the hat, and got up right away, fired it back in to prevent the runner on second from moving over to third as well.
Page's first pitch to Riley Minorik is taken low and away for ball 1, and one of the things you see with Franklin covering that entire outfield is just the amount of effort that you have to put in to do that, and then the baseball IQ after that. You make the catch, get it in right away. Like there's not a lot of guys in college baseball that can do what he just did.
It's really every single tool you want as an outfielder right there. As you mentioned, he's got the speed, he had the jump, he had the instinct to get back up, and made a strong throw back to the infield as well.
Page fires in for a strike, 1-1. And just to revisit that catch for a second, it's a risky move to dive in the outfield with runners in scoring position, because if the ball gets by you, that's going to be easily 2 runs, and that could have ended up being a triple or perhaps even an inside the parker, because that was hit pretty much to the deepest part of the park. So, if you don't make that catch, you have to be certain that you're going to make it, because if not, the ball's getting by you, and it's bad news.
Yeah, I mean that situation, 2 runs are going to score no matter what if you let that ball drop or whether you miss the catch. Either way, Lewis looked like he was in the area, probably would have been inside the park home run, but as you mentioned, probably a double, maybe a triple at the very least there. Could have been much worse for Michigan had he not been able to reel that one in.
So the count now 2-1 to Riley Minorik, the second baseman for Bowling Green State Falcons, grounded out to third in his first plate appearance. The 2-1 is taken low and away from Page, so the count now 3-1. And you have the open base here with 1 out. You don't necessarily want to put him on, especially behind in the game. But you're going to face the 7, 8, 9 hitters. So I'm not saying it's a calculated move, but, perhaps not wanting to give the 6 hitter anything to hit.
Right. I mean, he's been working around the edges of the zone, not quite hitting the spots to start this inning, but as you mentioned, has that base to work with.
And the ball fouled back by Minorik, so count runs full. Page an opportunity here to steal an out.
This would be huge for Page, not really locating the fastball well. On 3-2, wouldn't be surprised to see an off-speed pitch come here from Page, just given the lack of control he has. Not that he's missing, again, not he's missing wildly, but just not able to hit the spots. Don't want to leave one right over the center of the plate.
Page now comes set, working from the stretch, the third base side of the rubber. The 3-2 is fouled down the first base line by Minorik, so we'll do it again.
Looked like he did go back with the fastball there on 3-2. Looked to be hitting a spot there from Salter at the very least. So a little bit of improvement as he gets a little more comfortable. As you mentioned, coming into the game, working out of the stretch for someone that's not used to it is a little bit taxing, is a little bit harder. And it might just be a case of Page settling in.
Payoff pitch is grounded down to Blomgren, a slow roller, and he can't handle it. That's probably going to go as an E6, but, Minorik, a fast runner, I don't know that he would have been able to make the play anyway.
They gave him a hit on the scoreboard there, so I have a tough time ruling that one a hit. Probably would have gave in the air, but as you mentioned, was going to be a tough play. I see where they're coming with the hit there. Blomgren looked like he was rushing because he knows Minorik is such a fast runner over there. I guess a hit is a fair way to score that one.
Yeah, I mean, one of the positive takeaways from that is extremely weak contact. When you have your pitcher inducing that kind of contact, it's usually a good sign.
Yeah, the reason there was even a shot of it being a single is because of how weak the contact was.
So Tyler Haas, the catcher at the plate, takes on the outside corner for strike one. He struck out swinging against Angelo Smith in his first at-bat. And Haas having a little bit of a rough go of it this season, hitting just .212 with the strikeout in the first inning. He's got 9 strikeouts in 33 at-bats this season. So striking out a little bit above 25% of the time. And takes on the outside corner again for strike 2. And just like that, behind 0-2.
And Haas is a big boy over in that right-handed batter's box. 6'5", 192 for the catcher. Reminds me a little bit of Derek Lee, the way he kind of stands. He's a little bit farther crouched down, a little more open in his stance that Derek Lee used to be playing for the Cubs, but the same sort of demeanor up there with the tall stature.
The 0-2 line foul down the first base side. And this is not really the catcher archetype from Tyler Haas. I mean, 6'5", probably doesn't weigh more than like 180 pounds. He's a stick. So, that's an interesting thing to kind of navigate if you're the head coach for Bowling Green. Danny Schmidt's kind of building your catcher up to the point where he can endure the workload of a full season.
Yeah, you mentioned he's listed at 192. Doesn't quite look like it. A very tall, slender frame.
Haas takes away for ball 1, and a nice block there by Salter moving to his right.
A really nice block there by Salter, I have to say, behind the plate, and deadened the ball, something that we've seen Wolverine catchers struggle with at times this season is when you're blocking it and they kind of trickle away, giving away extra bases. Deaden that ball directly in front of him. He left Croy and Minorik with absolutely no choice.
So the 1-2, Haas checks his swing, but no go. So the count now 2-2 to Tyler Haas.
And the way Haas kind of bailed out back on the 0-1 pitch that ran into 0-2, not very comfortable, it looks like, trying to reach that outside corner with that long frame, coming from such a wide stance, or a wide open stance, rather. If I'm Page, I'd try to attack that outside corner.
Page gets the chopper to second, the tag, the throw, and that's 2 for the Wolverines. So Isaiah Page comes in and limits the damage for the Falcons in that inning. 2 runs on 4 hits, no errors, and nobody left, or 1 left on base, actually. So at the end of 2.5, Falcons grab the lead back. It's 3-2. They lead it here at Ray Fisher Stadium. You're listening to Michigan Baseball on WCBN FM Ann Arbor.
And a solid job there by Isaiah Page. I mentioned as he's coming into the game, the soft contact is his MO, and really showed it there later in the inning. One of them resulted in a single on the weak ground ball to shortstop, but that last pitch was exactly what you wanted out of Isaiah Page. Going away from, as I mentioned, Haas looked like he was struggling away, the tall righty, getting him to hit a topper that just, it was an easy play for Nelson, as easy as you can get a 4-3 double play ball to be. Just kind of ran in, made an easy tag, throw over to first. Exactly what you dialed up there for Isaiah Page, exactly what you wanted for head coach Eric Backett. You want your offense back out there and giving yourself a chance to retake the lead.
Yeah, Page coming in, getting 2 outs, giving up just the 1 hit on a weak ground ball to shortstop. I have no doubts that we'll see him back out in the top of the 4th.
Wouldn't be surprised to see Eric Backett ride him as long as he really can until he gets into a little bit of trouble. Similar to the way it seemed like it was trending with Angelo Smith before things got away from a bit there in the top of the 3rd and gave up 3 straight hard-hit balls. I imagine Page has a very similar leash where until he starts getting hit hard or starts getting really wild with the command, it's really his game.
So we'll have a new pitcher here for Bowling Green. They're really going with that 1 inning per guy strategy today. It'll be Adam Deeringer. Deeringer, the freshman, right-handed pitcher for Bowling Green. Hasn't seen any work on the season. Oh, my bad, he has. He's thrown 4 innings, given up 5 earned. Not a very auspicious start.
But less than ideal. 7 runs total. It looks like really the problem there for Deeringer on the season has been hard contact. He's given up 5 extra base hits in just those 4 innings pitched. The batting average all the way up there, or batting average against at 478, usually indicates at least some level of hard contact, and that's not what you want to be if you're facing this Wolverine lineup.
And speaking of hard contact, Jordan Wogu swinging hard at the first pitch and fouling it towards the Michigan dugout down the third base line. Count now 0-1. Wogu hit a flare down the first base line in his first at-bat, reached and then stole 2 bags before getting thrown out at the dish. Wogu, one of the more powerful hitters on this team. The 0-1 to him, taken high for ball 1.
Yeah, Wogu, you mentioned hit that flare in the first, but more than capable of really getting into a ball, and you can see it every time he takes one of those big swings as he did to start the at-bat.
1-1 to Wogu, taken low and away for ball 2. And it kind of feels like we're in the first inning again. Michigan, top of the lineup, down a run. I mean, it's really just shortened the game 2 innings at this point.
Right back where we started.
The 2-1 from Deeringer. Inside 3-1. And Wogu now. A hitter's count. I mean, this is exactly where you want to be if you're Jordan Wogu. Chance to perhaps drive a fastball. And Deeringer has been known to give up hard contact this season. Opposing hitters hitting nearly 500 against him. Wogu takes high for ball 4. So the Wolverines have the leadoff man on here for their center fielder and number 2 hitter, Jesse Franklin.
You could tell Wogu was gearing up for that 3-1 fastball. Kind of started to fire the hips through a little bit before realizing it wasn't quite down far enough for him to really do anything with. And more than willing to take his walk is Wogu. That's his 24th on the season, 2nd on the team, or 2nd in the starting lineup today.
So Wogu on base safely twice today. And Jesse Franklin struck out swinging in his first plate appearance. He's at the plate, hits from the left side. Deeringer, the check over to first base. Wogu slides back safely. And that's you talked about Wogu firing his hips early there. That's not something you typically see from right-handed hitters. Guys like Bryce Harper, they do that a ton, and that's how you have that much raw power. But it also sometimes leads to a lot of weak ground ball rollovers, not something Wogu is known for. So, on a 3-1 count, as Franklin takes away for ball 1, that's something that you might see right-handed hitters get more used to doing. You're expecting a fastball. If you get that, it's going to be an extra base hit.
And really, you see Wogu do that a lot, firing the hips through. That's really where all his power comes from. You mentioned it, a lot of lefties tend to do that. But I've seen Wogu a lot of times. If he's in a hitter's count, he's not in protect mode. He's just about always firing the hips through on every single swing he takes. He's trying to make hard contact, get those extra base hits. And as I mentioned, hasn't really come to full fruition, to really reach his full potential yet this season. Again, just his 2nd season here with Michigan, and really come around as of late, hitting the ball hard, finding gaps, finding the ball traveling out of the yard a little bit as well. The more and more he grows, you have to imagine the more and more we're going to see just that raw power come through.
Yeah, so a quick visit there from Kyle Halleck, the Bowling Green State pitching coach, trying to calm Deeringer down after throwing 5 balls in his first 6 pitches. Jesse Franklin trying to time it up at the plate. Deeringer working from the stretch, the first base side of the rubber. Checks over to Wogu. Nothing doing down there first base.
And worried about Wogu is Bowling Green. He swiped 2 bases when he got on base back in the first. Unfortunately, wasn't able to come around and score. Wolverine stranded him over, or rather, he tried to score on the pop out just behind the first base bag and was thrown out, but certainly made his speed known, and Bowling Green very occupied. Could bode well for Jesse Franklin at the plate if Deeringer at the mound just lets his focus drift a little bit.
So Deeringer takes a sign after another check over. The 1-0 is caught by Croy, and I mean, there's nothing you can do about that. Croy steps on first for the double play. Wogu going on the hard contact, so Franklin lines into a double play. Jordan Wogu erased, and Dominic Clementi will come up with 2 outs and nobody on.
Yeah, you said it. Really, nothing you could do about that. You hit the ball hard. You just hit it right at Croy over at first base. It's double play, and all of a sudden you're looking at 2 outs, nobody on, and almost seems like the inning's lost after it looked promising with the leadoff single, or with leadoff walk, rather.
So Clementi walked in his first plate appearance, takes the slow curveball for strike 1. Clementi this season hitting just .220. Last season hit over .350. So still kind of working back from that injury that he had earlier this year. And he rockets one into right field. That could be extra bases. Clementi rounds first base. He's going to go for 2. The right fielder, Mike Malowitz, throw in. Clementi head first slide, and he gets in safely. So just like that, the Michigan Wolverines have a runner in scoring position after the line-out double play. Good piece of hitting there from Clementi.
And not what you traditionally look at when you think of a hustle double. Is that one down the line, a tough play for the right fielder, but the key there is Clementi was thinking double out of the box immediately. He wasn't content to get on base here with a 2-out single. He knew with 2 outs, you're going to try to get yourself into scoring position, try to manufacture a run here late in the inning. That's exactly what he did.
Clementi taking his lead off of second now. He's got a lot of space out there. Riley Minorik coming over, not really checking on him. Pitch now to Miles Lewis, who bats from the right side, is taken inside a ball. Lewis in his first at-bat popped out to first base, and then Jordan Wogu was cut down at the plate in a 3-2 double play. Don't see a whole lot of those.
I was going to say, just your average 3-2 double play there.
The 1-0, ball taken low and away, so it's 2-0 to Lewis. And Lewis is not a guy you want to put on base, especially with Blake Nelson coming up next. Nelson hitting .333 on the season with a .441 slugging percentage, .439 on-base percentage, second on the team to Jordan Wogu in the starting lineup today. Lewis now, hitters count here, the count 2-0. He takes on the outside corner for strike 1.
And that outside corner has been fairly generous for Stuart Hall behind the plate today. Something that hitters, I'm sure, are being made aware of and kind of learning as this game goes along, that you're going to have to really think going the other way if pitchers are going to be able to consistently exploit that.
The daylight play, they don't get Clementi at second on the pickoff attempt. A good move there from Deeringer. You have to think that if he got around a little bit earlier there, they had Clementi dead to rights, but it was a pretty slow move on his part.
Yeah, it was really slow turn. Clementi didn't move until the ball was almost out of the hand there of Deeringer on the mound.
The 2-1. Lewis grounds it foul down the third base line. And the count now 2-2.
And Lewis more than capable of putting together a long at-bat, staying in the box for a while, trying to get a pitch he can do something with. 22 strikeouts, 16 walks on the year. Not a huge number in the strikeout category, and capable of definitely working the count here.
Another pickoff attempt to second base. We've seen Deeringer throw to a base 5 different times this inning.
Really keeping an eye. Bowling Green obviously knows Michigan's one of the most aggressive teams in the country when it comes to stealing bases, especially when you're trying to manufacture a run with 2 outs here.
The 2-2 is low, so Lewis will have a chance here with a full count and 2 outs to drive home Clementi from second base. Clementi will be in motion on the pitch, most likely. You know, he's not forced to run. You don't have to go from second base, but Coach Bakich, notoriously aggressive, especially with 2 outs. Deeringer steps off. Lewis steps out as well, taking a practice swing. And we'll restart it here. So Adam Deeringer comes set. The payoff pitch. Lewis swings and misses for strike 3, and that'll do it for Michigan here in the 3rd inning. No runs, 1 hit, no errors, and 1 man left. And at the end of 3, it's the Michigan Wolverines 2, the Bowling Green State University Falcons 3. You're listening to Michigan Baseball on WCBN FM Ann Arbor.
That's just a big-time pitch there from Deeringer. 3-2. Miles Lewis was thinking fastball, looking fastball. He gave him what looked to be a changeup, had Lewis out on the front foot and moving down in a spot that Lewis couldn't even get the bat head on and stay alive in that one. Just a huge pitch for Bowling Green to get out of that inning without letting it potentially spiral into something. And they still hold that one-run lead going in here into the fourth, looking to tack on some more, and they're going to send the bottom half of their lineup that has struggled this season, but at the very least, maybe they're going to cycle through it before you get to the fifth. The more at-bats you can get for the top of that lineup that's produced 3 runs today and a plethora of extra base hits, the faster you get back to them, the better.
They'll send Page out, that is Michigan, to try to get some more outs. He's been quite adept at that this season, getting 2 in the third inning, bailing Angelo Smith out of a little bit of a jam. And as you mentioned, he'll face the bottom of the lineup, Anthony Smith, the designated hitter, Ryan Johnston, the third baseman. And then Bowling Green will turn the lineup over for the second time today. Mike Malowitz is due up third in the inning.
You mentioned Isaiah Page has been somewhat of that innings eater for Eric Bakich this season. Along with the counterpart, as I mentioned earlier, Walker Cleveland was very similar stat profile to Page this season. He's gone a couple of times, multiple innings, 4 innings on a couple of occasions, 5. Back against Manhattan a few weeks ago. Earlier on in the season, also a 3-inning outing, capable of eating up a good chunk of outs.
And right there, that's exactly how you do that, throwing first pitch strikes. So Page getting out ahead 0-1 of the 8th place hitter, Anthony Smith.
We'll see if he's more comfortable working out of the windup now.
Looks like he is. He gets a swing and a miss on the second pitch. Just like that, Smith behind 0-2.
I mean, it's early on in the inning here, but already looking like he's locating a lot better. First 2 pitches exactly where Harrison Salter wanted him.
Smith working from the windup. Smith facing Page, who's working from the windup, and just able to check his swing there on a breaker that moved away. A nice pitch there from Page. 0-2, you don't want to give him anything to hit, and nearly got the swing and miss.
Yeah, that almost bit Angelo Smith last inning when he was up on the count and kind of gave, I believe it was Jeff Scott, something to hit on 1-2.
Page's 1-2 is rocketed foul down the third baseline. Fighting it off there, Anthony Smith got it in on the hands, able to kind of golf it foul.
And the hard contact there is immediately kind of scares you a little bit, thinking you maybe got away with one. But in that case for Isaiah Page, not really. Got that in at the point where there was absolutely nothing Smith could do besides foul it off.
Ground ball to Blomgren. He gobbles it up to throw over to first. A little high, but handled by Schmidt for the first out.
Routine play over there from Blomgren. That's what Isaiah Page does. Get the ball on the ground, rely on his defense to make plays, in which they've been very good at here on the Ray Fisher Stadium turf. They've had some lapses away from home this season, most notably in Lubbock, specifically against Texas Tech. But at home, the defense really hasn't per se costed Michigan many runs or any games this season.
That they have not, and Ryan Johnston, the freshman third baseman, steps in for these Falcons. Take the first pitch, a breaker a little high and tight. Count 1-0.
And specifically with that Michigan defense, the middle infield with Jack Blomgren and normally Akeo Thomas over at second has been especially solid.
Johnston rockets this one foul down the third base line. So the count now even at 1-1 with 1 out. Johnston walked in his first at-bat after facing a wicked curveball from Angelo Smith. He was all over the place, but managed to work the walk. Count 1-1 here on him.
He was able to fight off one of those curveballs, and that was enough to work a walk.
Page's 1-1 is a fastball right down Broadway for strike 2. I don't know what Johnston was looking for. It doesn't get much better than that.
It looked like it might have been maybe a little bit low to him. He is a little bit taller in that right-handed batter's box. It is Johnston. He stands up there at 6 foot 165, but a very upright stance.
And swings and misses for strike 3, so Isaiah Page gets his 4th out via the strikeout, his first of the day. And Mike Malowitz will come up for the Falcons. He's 0 for 2 today with a fly out to center field and a strikeout swinging against Angelo Smith in the second inning.
That strikeout pitch by Page, set up by the pitch beforehand, was able to fire that fastball right about at the knees, and then looked to really drop one out of the zone starting at the knees, and had Johnston completely fooled.
Malowitz takes inside for ball 1. Page here working from the windup clearly looks more comfortable. I mean, 2 straight outs. Obviously the results are there. 1-0. The pitch, a little low to Malowitz. So count now 2 balls, no strikes with 2 outs here in the top of the 4th inning. Michigan trailing 2-3.
You mentioned looking more comfortable. Aside from falling behind 2-0 here, it was ahead of the first couple of batters where he looked in control of every at-bat and doesn't even look flustered here down 2-0.
He throws a high fastball. Looks like he could have been trying to throw a breaking pitch there that just didn't break. And behind now 3-0 on Malowitz after getting 2 quick outs to start the inning. And this is where you need to end the inning here. You don't want to face Jeff Scott with guys on base. He has 2 doubles today. We'll see if Page can get out of this. It's 3-0. It's inside, so Malowitz reaches base safely for the first time today. And that'll bring up Jeff Scott, who's 2 for 2 with 2 doubles.
I mean, the good news if you're Michigan is that both those doubles came against Angelo Smith. The bad news, as you mentioned, 2 for 2 already, 2 doubles. Looking locked in right now is Jeff Scott. Mentioned last at-bat, he came up a violent swing from that right side of the plate. Somewhat similar to Jordan Wogu and how he just fires his entire body through every single swing he takes, it seems like.
So we'll see what method of attack Page goes with here, if he's going to give him a steady diet of breakers or if he's going to just go after him with the heater. First pitch is a heater, and Scott drives it to deep center. Franklin on the warning track, and he comes up with it. So Page able to get the long fly ball out. You're shaking your head, Austin. I mean, it was close. It was close.
It was. If he gets a little help from maybe a windy day here in Ann Arbor, that ball finds its way out. Got a little bit underneath it, but right now Jeff Scott is locked in at the plate, and Michigan got away with perhaps going down 3 there if he's able to square that up just a little bit better.
So after 3.5 here at Ray Fisher Stadium, it's the Bowling Green State Falcons 3, the Michigan Wolverines 2. For the Falcons there in the 4th inning, no runs, no hits, no errors, and 1 man left on base. You're listening to Michigan Baseball on WCBN FM Ann Arbor.
And just a shout out here, I believe it's Autism Awareness Day today. Michigan honoring that in the park. Over to our booth to our left, we have a group of patrons here having a good time, eating some food here at the ballpark, looking like they're enjoying what started out as really a pretty nice day over here, a little bit warmer than what we've been used to this spring. Not quite as sunny necessarily, but still warm as the clouds kind of start to roll in and cover the sun as it starts to set here in the late evening. But you have to like this trend if you're Michigan, especially after last season, never really having some good weather for home games to the last series of the year. You've been grateful to have a couple already this season where it's just a lot warmer. It makes it a lot easier on the offense specifically to get the bats going and stay warm throughout series and throughout the season.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you, Austin. Anything is warmer than what we had last season. So it's not the best day out here. Certainly not the best day we've had so far this spring. But that's not saying much. I mean, we've had a pretty good spring so far. Last season, if I'm not mistaken, we didn't get really a nice day until pretty much all of the students were off campus already.
Right.
And it's a real difference maker when you can have the home crowd come out and support. I remember against Minnesota in that Friday game, it was a real nice day, and the Wolverines obviously fell in that game, but to have a home crowd coming out and supporting, I mean, over 1,000 people were here, which is pretty much unheard of for the beginning of April here at Ray Fisher.
I mean, yeah, as you mentioned, they ended up falling in that game, but throughout the game, it almost felt like the crowd was keeping Michigan in it, kind of refusing to let morale dip down in that third base dugout for the Wolverines. And that's a huge plus, as you mentioned, just for a team throughout the season to have a consistent fan base coming out, especially if you can get it early on, get people hooked on coming to the ballpark with some beautiful weather. Bodes well down the line.
So Blake Nelson steps in here for the Wolverines, singled in his first at-bat. First pitch is a ball taken a little bit high. A new pitcher here for Bowling Green State. It's Will McLean. McLean this season has appeared mostly as a starter as the 1-0 pitch is skied high behind the first base bag. Second baseman Riley Minorek under it and makes the catch for the first out. And as I was saying, Will McLean, a starter for this team, 7 of his 8 appearances this season have come in a starter role, but he hasn't had much success. An 8.78 ERA this season in 26 2/3 innings. 14 strikeouts, 12 walks, so even though he's one of their weekend starters, he's not untouchable.
Most definitely, and For Bowling Green, I think right here what you're thinking is maybe try to get through a few innings, not having to switch pitchers every single inning.
Kerr pops it foul down the third base line.
But if you're Michigan, yeah, you're looking at those numbers and you're thinking definitely someone we can attack. And with the Michigan offense like this, you almost feel like you can attack just about any pitcher, but especially when you're coming in looking at the numbers like McLean has.
The 0-1 from McLean. Driven down the right field line by Kerr and gets just foul. If that was fair, it was gone.
I mean, you talk about locked in at the plate right now. How about Jimmy Kerr? It seems like he has at least one day a week now where he can do absolutely no wrong and is crushing every single ball he possibly can, whether it's foul like that one or like the long home run back in the second inning.
So, yeah, Kerr hitting that 412-foot home run in the second inning. That's all of Michigan's offense today. Kerr fouls it right back towards us. If the net wasn't there, I would have caught that.
I've talked about on the broadcast before. My one goal this season, I want to catch a foul ball from this booth. Very unlikely, but it's going to happen.
I mean, that would have been the best chance, I think.
The way it's got to get just over the net, but also stay below the overhang.
It's tough. It's a tough angle.
It is tough. I think there was one that went a few booths down a couple weeks ago.
So 1-2 now here for McLean on Kerr, and we haven't seen Kerr behind yet today. We'll see if he can make something happen here behind in the count with one out. Standing on deck is Jack Blomgren. McLean from the windup, the pitch, and it's rocketed again down the first baseline. Jimmy Kerr right on top of Will McLean, but can't straighten it out just yet.
I mean, if you're Kerr, you're a little bit ahead of these off speeds that McLean's throwing, but what you're doing right now, just foul it off, wait and see if you can get one that you can really drive. Doing a great job right now.
Kerr waggling his bat in the left-handed batter's box. Will McLean comes set at the chest, and the pitch. A curveball swung on and missed for strike three. Kerr goes down on strikes, and that's the second out here in the fourth.
It almost looked like that is not where McLean wanted that pitch at all. I think he wanted that to dip a little bit farther in against Kerr. It stayed up, but Kerr still swung through it. Maybe a little bit shocked that it didn't dip down as much as he thought it might.
So Schmidt on deck now, waiting for him to get a hit today. Also waiting to get a hit, Jack Blomgren, who's in the box, takes the first pitch, fastball down the middle for strike one. And Blomgren today struck out looking in his first plate appearance, didn't quite agree with the call. And that's something we've seen him do a better job of this season. Not quite as many strikeouts as he had last season. He has just 29 this season, which is a lot, but not as many as he had last year as he takes high for ball one.
It really is an improvement that came along last season. Early on in the year, kind of looked a little overmatched at the plate. Later on in the season, was at least fighting off foul balls, staying in counts, still striking out a bit. And that's kind of carried over to this season, with the difference being he's making a lot more hard contact and finding some holes when he's making that hard contact and really boosting up the average to go along with passing the eye test at the plate as well.
And that's one of the things you run into with recruiting these cold weather players is whether they'll be able to make that adjustment playing a longer season. So the 2-1 now to Blomgren. Lined into right field, but right at Mike Malowitz, and he corrals it for out number 3, so no runs, no hits, no errors, nobody left on for Michigan in the bottom of the fourth. And after 4, it's Bowling Green 3, Michigan 2. You're listening to Michigan Baseball on WCBN FM Ann Arbor.
Was it just me, or did Blomgren sound like he broke his bat on that one? Kind of off the very end of it. I've seen a couple of these bats break before where the end of the bat kind of pops off. It sounded like it might have on that one, but I don't see any picking up of any debris or anything like that.
Yeah, we've seen actually a broken bat this year at the Fish, which is a rarity. You don't really ever see these metal bats break, but I'll tell you, if that was wood, forget about that bat.
Oh, that ball, that's completely splintered and probably into 7 different pieces with the way that came off the very end of the bat.
So the book now closed on Isaiah Page. He went 2 innings, gave up 1 hit, 1 walk, 1 strikeout, and kept Bowling Green off the board. We'll see the freshman now, Walker Cleveland, the left-hander coming in. He's got kind of an across-his-body motion. He's straightened it out a little bit since the beginning of the season, but definitely comes across his body to generate power, and it's been working. Like you said earlier, Page and Cleveland have been the 2 midweek guys with similar profiles that have just gone out there and got outs.
I mean, Cleveland's out there. He's almost a stick on the mound, 6'2", 145. I think we've compared but before on some broadcasts to Chris Sale with that long, lanky, left-handed figure. Not quite the motion that Chris Sale has to put the stress on the body that somehow Chris Sale still hasn't gotten hurt with that, at least seriously. Walker Cleveland doesn't quite have that same motion, but does, as you mentioned, kind of drop down, come across his body a little bit more, makes it really tough on lefties to try to hit him, but also induces a lot of weak contact from righties as well, and not necessarily struggling against that side of the plate. Promising here for your freshman season in Ann Arbor. I wouldn't be surprised to see Walker Cleveland work his way into a starting role in the next season or two, at the very least a key reliever role, as he seems to be already working his way into in his first year.
Yeah, Cleveland this season, a 3.44 ERA in 18 and a third innings. 8 strikeouts and 8 walks, but hey, if you're getting outs, you're getting outs.
Exactly. I mean, the weak contact is very valuable. I know a lot of the stat projection sites don't really take into account soft contact per se. They just see low strikeout numbers and kind of project a pitcher to not quite have as much success. But we see another guy like Kyle Hendricks, for example, with the Cubs, doesn't have the huge strikeout numbers, but soft contact is something that's really hard to account for, something Cleveland does well.
And Cleveland there getting the first pitch strike to the third place hitter, Jake Wilson, center fielder for these Falcons, and he lines one over second base and into the outfield. That's some more weak contact for you there. Just happened to find a hole, but good job of inducing weak contact there by Cleveland. Wilson aboard, though, with a single, his second of the day.
And the lefty-lefty matchup, Wilson just kind of throwing the bat head out there, getting it off the end of the bat and looping it right over the head of Nelson. Mentioned weak contact again, just sometimes they find holes. Just like hard hit balls get caught sometimes weakly hit balls are going to find the turf.
So Brad Croy now coming up to the plate. Croy's done a lot of damage to this Michigan pitching staff today. 2 hits, 1 double, 1 single, and 2 RBIs. Croy takes on the outside corner for strike 1. And one interesting thing you see with Croy is that he really loads up with his front foot. It's something that's kind of gone out of style in Major League Baseball, is that really, really large front foot step. But Croy, I mean, is still rocking it, and he's 2 for 2 today. And there it is. Lines into center field. Franklin won't get there. So just like that, the Falcons have first and second and nobody out here in the top of the 5th.
Another looping liner that just fell in front of the outfield. A little unlucky here for the Wolverines to start the inning, but you want to get the ball on the ground here if you're Cleveland by any means necessary. At least make this inning a little bit more manageable to get out of with a couple runners on to start it.
So Neil Lambert now the shortstop and 5th place hitter for the Falcons. He's 1 for 1 today with a sacrifice fly that got him his only RBI on the day. He's also got a double.
Worth noting that Jake Wilson out there at second is 7 for 10 on stolen base attempts this season for Bowling Green, tied for the team lead in steals and second on attempts. So if anyone was going to take off here, maybe try to manufacture something, it could be him.
Cleveland's first pitch is a little outside for ball 1, and you've got Jimmy Kerr down there at third base. Hasn't played a whole ton of third base this season, so it'll be interesting to see if Bowling Green takes note of that and sends Jake Wilson, one of the speedier guys on their team.
Or maybe even just tries to put pressure on him, put a bunt down that third baseline, potentially with a tougher lefty-lefty matchup.
1-0 from Cleveland. A liner hit right at Franklin in center field, and tagging at second base is Wilson. He's going to go. Franklin, his throw won't make it in time, and both runners move up. And he's out at second base. So, Austin, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that Jake Wilson left from second base early, and they got him on the appeal.
Not even on the appeal. He just straight up left the bag early. He didn't really have to appeal and reset or anything. That's a heads-up play there from Blomgren, or rather it was Schmidt, I believe, that was waving his arm, seeing that. You could see it from up here that he definitely left a step or two early before Franklin caught the ball in a costly, again, a mental error there from Jake Wilson, something that's not going to go down on the stat sheet as a mental error necessarily, but certainly costly when Bowling Green probably could have gotten 2 runners in scoring position with 1 gone.
So that's your everyday 8-5-4 double play. We see these all the time. That's 2 unconventional double plays today.
That's what you dial up, the casual 8-5-4 double play.
The pitch now to Minorik is taken for strike 1 on the outside corner. And just like that, you think the Wolverines are going to be in trouble, 1 out, 2 runners in scoring position, and now just a runner on second and 2 out. A really, really lucky break there for them that Jake Wilson made that base running error.
This is where you got to take advantage of it. You cannot let that runner on second score now when you were gifted a couple outs.
Strike 2 there to Riley Minorik, a swing and a miss. So Walker Cleveland looking like he may be able to work out of this mini jam. No balls, 2 strikes and 2 outs here.
He's got Minorik all off balance right now. That 0-1 swing, very ugly there on a pitch low.
So Minorik 1 for 2 today. Cleveland working from the first base side. His 0-2 pitch is taken inside for ball 1.
Not a bad pitch there. Kind of bring it down and in on Minorik. See if you can get him to try to golf one and come up empty, especially when you're up in the count 0-2.
Nobody giving any thought to Brad Croy down there at second base. Michigan shifting their infield. Blake Nelson nearly even with the second base bag. The 1-2 is popped foul down the first baseline. That'll get out of play.
And Cleveland going right back to that same spot, it looked like, trying to go down and in on Minorik. Minorik just able to get the bat head in and get a piece of it. But after you've gone down and in a couple times, I'd look for Cleveland to maybe try to change it, play a little inside out, and go outside with this next 1-2 pitch.
So Riley Minorik here, taking his sweet time getting back into the batter's box. Walker Cleveland likes to work quickly. He's ready down there on the mound. Comes set at the belt, working from the first base side. The 1-2. Swung on and missed. Strike 3, and Walker Cleveland working a little bit of magic there to get out of the 5th inning unscathed. No runs on 2 hits, no errors, and 1 man left on base. And we're halfway through here at Ray Fisher Stadium. Michigan Wolverines trail the Bowling Green State Falcons 3-2. You're listening to Michigan Baseball on WCBN FM Ann Arbor.
That last pitch from Walker Cleveland looked like it came up there about 40 miles an hour. That ball absolutely crawled across the plate. Had Minorik way out in front of it. Just a stellar pitch there to finish off the inning. Kind of kept that in his back pocket until he really needed it at the end of the inning. And after Michigan was gifted a couple outs, Cleveland able to take advantage of it and work out of a jam that he was somewhat unlucky to get into in the first place with a couple bloop singles. Good job of not getting phased specifically for the freshman. Very easy to lose your composure, trying to work out of it and feeling the pressure, firing balls right over the middle of the plate, letting some damage occur. But Walker Cleveland not so in that inning and gives his team a chance down just 1 run here to even things up, perhaps take a lead, going with 8, 9, and 1 to start things off.
And we're going to have another pitching change here for Bowling Green. They're going to go to Andrew Carson. Carson this season, a 22.5 ERA. He's given up 5 earned in just 2 innings pitched. 3 strikeouts, 2 walks. Not exactly something you want to see from a guy coming in a 3-2 game.
I mean, yeah, granted it's only 2 innings worth of work, but anytime you're giving up 5 runs in a couple innings, probably not the best couple innings of work for you. And hitters hitting .538. Again, not a huge sample size to go off of, but usually an indicator of balls getting hit hard against you.
Yeah, so Andrew Carson, the 6'2" freshman from Rochester, Michigan, will try to get his in-state school retired in order. And if he wants to do that, he'll have to go through Matthew Schmidt, Harrison Salter, and Jordan Wogu. This is the 5th pitcher that Bowling Green's used today in as many innings. It'll be interesting to see if they go with this strategy throughout the entire year. They do have a closer, Jeremy Spezia. He's thrown 24.2 innings in 13 appearances, so that's a guy, if you need him, that can go more than 1 inning and get a couple days rest before the weekend series.
Exactly. I think the real key there is the fact that they do have a couple days rest. It's not 2 games midweek again, so they have the ability to go to Spezia for a couple innings should they need to. I wouldn't necessarily be shocked to see that being the strategy. Get through 7 innings with just kind of piecing together an inning at a time before turning over your closer for a couple innings to finish things off. It looks like they're going to stick with that strategy. It's just about every time Bowling Green sends a new pitcher to the mound, someone else jogs out to the bullpen to start warming up, and that remains the case here in the 5th.
So Matthew Schmidt walking up to the plate. Digs in on the right-hand side. He's 0 for 1 today, flew out to left field. The first pitch from Carson. A curveball taken away for ball 1.
You mentioned first at bat, Matthew Schmidt coming up to Kiss Kiss by Chris Brown, T-Pain. What is your opinion? We've talked about on the broadcast before. What is the best walk-up song for Michigan baseball this season?
That's a good question. It could very well be that song. Schmidt takes it right on the shoulder. He'll reach first on a hit by a pitch. It's tough for me, honestly. You know, Jesse Franklin walking up to Jimi Hendrix, you can't knock that. Like, that's a classic song.
Yeah. Big time.
Kiss Kiss is very unique. I've never heard that as a walk-up song before. I will say that Willie Weiss walking in to Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy, that's a baseball classic.
That's a big favorite of mine, yes.
There's a lot of good options on this team. I think I have to give the nod to Weiss, but Schmidt and Franklin definitely in the conversation for me.
I think my personal favorite, just because I love the little gimmick there, is Jack Van Immortal. Coming into Big Jack AC/DC. I've talked about it before.
A bunt here. Salter squares up, and the ball gets away from the catcher, Haas. No throw down to second base, and hey, look, Eric Bakich wanted to fake the bunt. I don't know if it was a fake at all, actually, but wanted to advance the runner. He did it just there.
I mean, I don't think it was necessarily a fake, but it worked out better than a sacrifice bunt would have worked out there, as you mentioned, getting the runner up in the scoring position without having to give away that first out of the inning. We've seen Bakich do it time and time and time again, especially when he tends to go with these unconventional lineups that he's not necessarily used to, guys in the 9 hole that don't get a ton of at-bats. Loves to square around if he gets the leadoff runner on and kind of get things going for the top of the order. Doesn't even have to in this case.
Yeah, and now Salter will have a chance to swing the bat, presumably. I don't know if they're going to go with the bunt there. At third base, Ryan Johnston playing just at the cut of where the grass would be. Obviously, it's a turf field here at the Fish. Bowling Green shifting a little bit. Riley Manorik just a couple feet off the second base bag. He's the second baseman, and the shortstop, Neil Lambert, playing way in the hole. Carson checks second and throws another ball. Salter pulling back his bunt, so it's going to be 2-0 now to Salter. He'll look for his sign. Coach Bakich making a decision on whether or not he wants to give him the bunt sign again, I guess.
And I think we've talked about before, not fans of a sacrifice bunt. We mentioned it earlier on in the ballgame today. I'm not really a big fan of giving away the outs here, especially now up 2-0 in the count. I think really swing away here if you're Harrison Walter, or you're giving Harrison Salter the chance to swing away here and drive in a run. It's giant hole on the right side right now, a fairly big hole on the left side with Johnston having to play close to that third base bag in event of a potential steal or sacrifice bunt.
And Andrew Carson coming set now to 2-0. Curveball taken high for ball 3. He's not throwing all that hard. It doesn't look like it can be faster than about 80 from here. And those are the kind of pitches where you can just kind of guide it through the right-hand side. They're shifting Salter to the left part of the infield, and there's a huge hole on the right-hand side. If you can just kind of lace it through there, that's an easy base hit.
It's a base hit and a run, especially playing deep in right field is Malowitz as well. Deeper than you see a lot of right fielders play.
So Salter takes the 3-0 for a strike just on the outside corner. And Salter looks back to his coach to see if they're going to get a bunt. Looks at his sign band on his arm. He's ready there in the box. On second base down there is Matthew Schmidt. So 3-1 now the count. Carson sets and fires. He fires over to second base. He actually faked it. Looked like he was going to the plate, but did that little crossover move to second base, just making sure Schmidt's not going anywhere, and I can assure you he's not.
It looked almost close to a balk there. Carson looked like he might have lost his balance for a split second from up here before, as you mentioned, spinning back.
So the 3-1 now from Carson. Schmidt goes. Ball's taken inside, and Schmidt nabs the base. So, hey, look.
Hey.
Look, I'm not complaining, but if you're going to make me look bad, like, that's the way to do it.
Exactly. You'd rather look bad if you're calling them out for something, not doing something positive, and something positive happens, as opposed to back in the first inning when I jinxed Jesse Franklin and said he doesn't strike out.
No, you're completely right. He has 2 career stolen bases. Both came last season. Obviously, Schmidt, the senior, so picking up his 3rd career stolen base there, and they're going to get a pitching change here. So Andrew Carson facing two batters and retiring neither of them. It looks like we're going to get a right-hander coming in from the bullpen here. Not quite sure who it is just yet. And I got to give props to the Michigan event staff this season. They've done an excellent job on the PA with the music that they've been playing. Right now, Help by the Beatles blaring over the PA. I don't know if you can hear that in the background, but it's been a nice touch.
I think that's another thing we've mentioned on some broadcasts already this season is just how much we appreciate how well the event staff has done this season. Just in general with the PA, specifically when it comes to pitching changes, as you mentioned here, with Help, playing a little less talk, a little more action when there's a long visit on the mound, the Jeopardy theme in there as well. I've heard one of my personal favorites they play at Wrigley Field sometimes as well as a little blank on the name right now. Wow.
Well, they're playing Under Pressure right now.
Now they're playing Under Pressure, yeah.
Another favorite of mine that they do is sometimes Pressure by Billy Joel, and coming from, the New York area,
right.
That one is very, very close to home for me.
Hit the Road, Jack. That's what I was trying to think of. I mean, not.
That's
classic.
They've been
song.
Look. They've been on their game this year. The Michigan event staff. They've been doing a great job.
Another big positive too. They don't overuse the sound effects as well. Very easy to get into, especially at say minor league ballparks when it comes to the glass breaking, the car horns. Done an excellent job, fitting in there a few times a game. Just props off to them.
Yeah. So we've got Damon Egnor in here for Bowling Green State. Egnor, a 5.79 ERA in 18 2/3 innings this season. He's allowed more walks than strikeouts. That's never a good sign, especially in a tight situation here. But Egnor, somebody who we saw in relief last year. This is a guy that Coach Danny Schmitz clearly trusts.
I mean, yeah, he's made his 14 appearances this season. You trust him enough to pick up a save as well. But the big thing is command when it comes to him. Like you mentioned, 17 walks, 15 strikeouts. You don't like to see that ratio at all. On the bright side, he does have some strikeout potential, which if you're in a jam, maybe that's a gamble that you're willing to take here if you're Bowling Green and Danny Schmitz.
So Jordan Wogu coming up to the dish for the third time today. He's reached base safely in both of his plate appearances. A walk, a single, 2 steals. Runners on first and third and nobody out. Egnor working from the stretch, checks over to first base. Salter slides back in safely.
Now I feel pretty confident saying Salter's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah,
here on this one.
look, I said it last time. I didn't think it was going to happen, and then it did. So I'm just keeping my mouth shut. Wogu, the first pitch to him, taken on the inside corner for strike one. Wogu started his swing and then stopped it. Didn't like that pitch.
And that one looked to be a little bit inside, almost clipped the belt there of Wogu. I know the outside corner's been open for business for Stuart Hall, but maybe starting to open up the inside corner as well.
The 0-1 now to Wogu. Fouled back to the backstop. The count now 0-2.
And we talked a few times already about Wogu firing the hips through. He did so on that swing. But now in the 2-strike situation, you see him dial it back a little bit more, choke up just a little bit on that bat, and does a really good job of staying alive and making contact with 2 strikes on him.
So Jordan Wogu, the leadoff hitter, hitting .375 with runners on base. Takes high and away for ball 1. So runners on first and third here. It'll be interesting to see if Coach Bakich does end up sending Salter, because you could always run that kind of first and third play and then just not send Schmidt.
You're almost a dummy steal, potentially. Trying to get into a pickle out there.
1-2 to Wogu. He lines it to the shortstop, caught by Lambert, and the runners will stay put. So Egnor able to get 1 out. We'll see if he can keep the line moving, so to speak, with Jesse Franklin coming up to the plate.
And just a hard-hit ball again from Michigan that finds a glove on the line out. And if Lambert wasn't necessarily diving and falling to the ground with that one, probably would have been a heads-up play to see if you can let that one bounce, get a double play out of it potentially. And you might surrender the run, given Schmidt wasn't tagging by any means on the line drive, but you'd be trading 2 outs and potentially a big inning for a tie game, which is a trade-off you might be willing to take if you're Bowling Green. Obviously not really an option on that play, though.
The one thing you run the risk of, though, is if you don't turn the double play there, you replace Salter, a slow runner, with Wogu, who's a very, very fast runner.
Fair point as well.
So Jesse Franklin now at the plate. He's 0 for 2 today. Struck out in the first, lined out into a double play in the third. looking to make something happen for the Wolverines, and he pops the first pitch high down the third base line. Ryan Johnston ranging over. He's got space and makes the catch. So Franklin retired on the first pitch.
And that one, a little bit of help from the wind. It's picked up just a little bit here in the last half inning or so, blowing pretty much straight out to right. So it blew it back from what might make its way into the dugout, maybe into the stands, and kept it in play for Johnston over there at third base. And for Egnor, that's a huge boost. A couple quick outs here coming into the ballgame.
Dominic Clementi now at the plate, and this isn't going to be an easy task for him. Clementi, 1 for 1 today with a double, also reached base via walk. Salter on first, Schmidt on third. Egnor comes set and fires. Ball taken away. 4-1.
Yeah, if you're Clementi here, this is almost a way to announce that you're back in the starting lineup. Did play well in the second game on that Saturday doubleheader in Columbus, but hit here at home.
He takes a fastball right down the middle for strike one. Count now even at 1-1.
And granted, it's only the fifth inning, but it almost feels kind of like a turning point in the game, and whatever team kind of seizes control here in this inning, it's going to feel really good down the stretch.
I mean, this is a big opportunity for the Wolverines. Runners on the corners and nobody out. If Egnor can get out of this, that'd be huge for the Falcons. Clementi grounds it down to first. Egnor covering. And they make the out at first base, the 3-1 putout. So the Wolverines threaten but cannot push any men across. No runs, no hits, no errors, and 2 men left on base. At the end of 5, it's the Michigan Wolverines 2 and the Bowling Green State Falcons 3. You're listening to Michigan Baseball on WCBN FM Ann Arbor.
And if you're Michigan, you are a little bit frustrated right now. Obviously, you want to score there with runners at the corners, nobody out, but it's almost in the way that you went down immediately 1-2-3 there. You hit a hard line drive, finds a glove. You get the foul pop out that probably gets out of play if not for the wind that just picked up. And then there, a little tapper that Bowling Green does a good job of executing, something we saw Michigan fail to do back all the way in the first inning when Bowling Green scored their very first run of the ball game. And it's just something that you're not stranding a ton of runners today, but every runner feels like a huge stranded runner in this ball game. They've stranded a runner back in the first officially at first base, but the run coming in, or Wogu was throwing it at home in the first inning to end that first inning. You stranded a runner at second in the third. You stranded one at each of the corners here in the fifth. It just feels like you're wasting scoring opportunities, not just leaving runners, say a runner on first base every other inning.
For sure, and one thing that Michigan has done well is keep Bowling Green off the board for the most part today. Bowling Green so far, 6 runners left on base in just 5 innings. Never a good thing, but the fact that Michigan has been able to do that has kept them in this game, and it's been because of their pitching. After Angelo Smith got roughed up a little bit, 3 runs in 2 innings, Page came in through 2 scoreless, and then Cleveland 1 scoreless so far, and he'll try to keep the line moving against Tyler Haas, Anthony Smith, and Ryan Johnston.
And 9 hits on the board, but 6 of those came against Angelo Smith when he was roughed up a little bit more. After that, there was the infield single by Minarick, and then 2 bloop singles. So doing a good job, as you mentioned, holding the bats down as this game goes along.
And a bunt attempt there from the catcher, Tyler Haas. Sorry, looks like we're going to have a pinch hitter here. It's Nick Neibauer, a sophomore catcher out of Farmington Hills, Michigan. So that was him trying to lay down the bunt. That's something you rarely see, is a catcher trying to bunt for a hit.
I mean, if you've got Kerr, who's playing well off the third base bag and was playing a little farther back, now playing just about even with that baseline, worth a shot to try to get things started.
Cleveland's 0-1 taken for a strike, and the count now 0-2 on the pinch hitter, Neibauer.
That's what you want to see here if you're Walker Cleveland. Immediately start out, get ahead of hitters. You really didn't get a chance to establish yourself at the beginning of the inning, last inning, because of the bloop singles.
Cleveland's 0-2. Taken just outside, 4-1.
Great pitch there by Cleveland. Hit his spot exactly where he wanted to. Just did miss off the corner. Not really a question of whether it did or not, but a really good chase pitch there against the lefty. You could maybe induce a swing or miss there out of Neibauer.
1-2. Taken high by Neibauer, so count now moves to 2-2. You don't want to lose them here if you're Cleveland. The wind definitely starting to pick up a little bit. You can see that American flag out in left center field. The wind blowing in towards right, and I don't even know what that was. Bounced it into the right-handed batter's box there from Cleveland. So the count now full.
I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt there and say probably a breaking ball that got away.
Yeah, well, I hope it wasn't a fastball, because that would not be a good sign. But the count full now to Neibauer, the 3-2 from Cleveland. Swung on and chopped down the first baseline. Schmidt will take it himself, and just like that, there's one out here in the 6th.
Nice, easy 3 unassisted. Another weak ground ball there for Walker Cleveland. That's his game. That's how you know when he's on. Unlike maybe your traditional pitcher where you see when a guy is on, he's racking up the strikeouts. For Walker Cleveland, he's getting out of there with a lot of ground balls. You're seeing a lot of 4-3, 6-3s, 3 unassisted there. That's when you know Walker Cleveland's got his good stuff and he's mixing up his pitches well, getting hitters off balance.
And the first pitch to Anthony Smith misses inside for a ball. Smith today 0 for 2. Flew out to right, grounded to Blomgren at short. Cleveland comes set and delivers the 1-0. That one's taken on the inside corner, so able to move it over a couple inches and get the called strike.
I like how he went fastball first pitch a little bit farther down and in, then slowed it down just a little bit. Had a little, almost a two-seam or change-up movement, arm side to come back and hit that inside corner.
Cleveland's 1-1 is golfed into left field. Clemente giving chase, as is Blomgren, and Blomgren makes the catch. So 2 outs here for Cleveland.
And another good pitch from Cleveland. He stayed inside. That was obviously the MO there against Smith. Was just to really pound him inside. He got him to golf one there with another weakly hit ball that made its way into the outfield, but easily chased down by Blomgren.
So Ryan Johnston now up here for the 3rd time. Walked and struck out today. And hits the first pitch curveball down the left field line. Clemente ranging over. Out of view, but he made the catch. A sliding catch there from Clemente. He went into his slide and kind of popped out of our view, blocked by the fence down there in left field, but a great catch from Clemente. The entire team out to congratulate him. And a quick 1-2-3 inning from Walker Cleveland, the team's first of the day, which is always impressive. So no runs, no hits, no errors. Nobody left on for the Falcons at the end of 5.5. It's the Michigan Wolverines 2 and the Bowling Green State Falcons 3. Let's take a look at the out-of-town scoreboard around the Big Ten. Maryland, who currently sits at 5-4 in Big Ten play, a half game behind Michigan, falling to George Mason 9-5 today. And the final in Piscataway, New Jersey, 6-4. Hofstra over Rutgers. Obviously here it's 3-2. Bowling Green over Michigan right now, and East Lansing, they just got underway. Eastern Michigan taking on the Spartans. At 7:30, we'll have the Big Ten leaders, Nebraska, in Omaha, taking on Omaha. And Penn State today was scheduled to take on West Virginia in College Park, but game canceled due to inclement weather.
That's kind of a big loss there, specifically for Penn State, with a chance to welcome in West Virginia for a midweek game. It's a ranked team from a higher profile conference. Coming in, you get a chance to potentially maybe make a name for yourself, establish yourself here. And for the Big Ten Conference, if Penn State's able to pull out that win, your wins against Penn State look a little bit better as well if you can secure those. So really a loss for the conference if they're not able to make that one up at some point.
Yeah, and an interesting connection actually between Michigan and West Virginia. So Michigan's Saturday starter, Carl Kaufman, is really close friends with one of West Virginia's pitchers, Sam Kessler. They played together on Cape Cod this past summer, both for the Yarmouth-Dennis Red Sox. And that was a team that ended up first in the regular season. They fell in the first round of the playoffs, but an interesting connection there.
Maybe see if that matchup comes to fruition later on in the season.
So Miles Lewis pulls back the bunt on the first pitch from Egnor.
Not necessarily out of the question to potentially see West Virginia at some point in the tournament.
It's definitely a possibility if Michigan can make it to the College World Series. Egnor's 1-0 is outside for a ball. So the count now 2-0 to Lewis. Lewis looking to start a rally here. A ton of space in the middle of the infield. Hitting from the right side against the righty. And a base hit there from Lewis. between the shortstop and third baseman. So Miles Lewis getting things started for the Wolverines. And I'm not exactly positive, but I think Lewis might have stopped switch hitting this year.
Yeah, I do believe that is the case. He's only exclusively batted from the right side for every at-bat that I've seen this season. Still lists as a switch hitter, but just about never hits from the left side. I haven't seen it yet this season. He may have broken it out earlier on in non-conference when I didn't get a chance to watch the team on an everyday basis, every game basis. But yeah, exclusively from the right side from Miles Lewis. And it's working out pretty well for him, I'd say.
I would definitely say so. Picking up the single there and giving way to Blake Nelson. Nelson's been excellent this season. Lewis at first. Egnor working from the stretch. He checks on Lewis. Nothing going on down there at first, although Lewis has been known to run for the Wolverines. He's 8 of 12 on stolen base attempts this year. Out of all the players in the starting lineup, he's got the most tries.
Yeah, if Jordan Brewer was in there, it'd be a different story, but right now, Lewis, the main stolen base threat in the lineup this season, or today at least.
Time called by Blake Nelson. He'll readjust his batting gloves and get his sign from Coach Bakich. Miles Lewis down at first base. He gets his lead. Damon Egnor working from the first base side of the rubber. Still looking in and getting his sign from the new catcher, Niebauer. And the pitch taken low. A called strike, though, from Stuart Hall. And as the game has gone on, that zone has expanded a little bit. Nothing egregious, but we definitely have seen him not necessarily squeeze pitchers as much as in the early goings of this game.
Yeah, as you mentioned, the zone definitely opening up. It started off on the corners, now maybe a little bit low as well. You said taken low. It definitely looked like it at first.
Another check over to first, but Lewis not going anywhere just yet.
Keyword there, just yet. Wouldn't be surprised. He's taking a very aggressive lead. Looks like he's got a close eye on Egnor out there.
Egnor's pitch is fouled back into the parking lot, and the count will run to 0-2 on Nelson.
And you run the risk maybe a little bit here of potentially hitting into a double play with 2 outs, maybe a strike him out, throw him out, or sending the runner here and getting some weak contact from Nelson. But I would not be at all surprised. I'm really never surprised when head coach Eric Bakich sends a runner no matter the situation.
So no balls, 2 strikes here to Nelson. Egnor set and fires. Ball taken high. So the count now 1-2. And I wouldn't put it out of possibility for Nelson to try to hit and run here.
It's not your traditional hit and run type of count here, 1-2, but again, the aggressiveness of Michigan, nothing really surprised me when it comes to aggressiveness.
And Nelson, a .337 hitter on the season. 1 ball, 2 strikes to him. He lines it right back up the middle for a base hit, and Michigan is in business here in the bottom of the 6th. They have 2 runners on with nobody out, and who but Jimmy Kerr to come up and try to get the lead here.
And it looks like there is someone warming in the Bowling Green bullpen right now. It is a righty, though, so don't necessarily expect to see trying for that lefty-lefty matchup. Didn't work out for Bowling Green earlier, though, when it came to the lefty-lefty matchup against Kerr. Promptly deposited one 412 feet over the right field wall.
So we're going to get time here. Kyle Halleck, the pitching coach, coming out. Looks like he's going to have a little chat with Damon Egnor. We've got some action down in the Bowling Green bullpen. There's a right-handed pitcher warming up. Can't quite tell who it is, but my guess is that we're going to get a pitching change at some point here, if not on this batter, then very soon. And Michigan bringing their entire team in from the bases. Coach Berdar even running in from first down there.
And given that Egnor did get 3 outs last inning, it would be on brand here for Bowling Green to not let their pitchers go more than 3 outs.
So they break the huddle finally. Little council of elders there went on for longer than I would have expected to, but...
And home plate umpire Stuart Hall not walking out to break it up either. Stood behind the plate, and lucky he was motioning to both dugouts perhaps about mound visits.
So Jimmy Kerr stepping into the left-handed batter's box. He's 1 for 2 today, hit that moonshot home run back in the 2nd inning. A little bit of precipitation coming down here at Ray Fisher.
We could see it in the attendance before we actually really saw it coming down.
Yeah, it's definitely cleared out. People going towards the scaffolding in Section 6 and Section 1 over here down the first base and third base line as Kerr takes ball 1 after pulling back a bunt. And that's something you don't usually see as guys who are as hot as Kerr is trying to lay one down, but perhaps going to catch Bowling Green by surprise. We'll see what happens here. Kerr fakes the bunt again and takes on the outside corner for strike 1. To count out even at 1-1, if you're Bowling Green, you think about running the wheel play here?
Yeah, I think you're going to try to cut down that lead runner if you can here, especially if Michigan's going to give you that out. Niebauer looks to be popping out of his stance quite well, at least in the few times that he's popping out on high pitches or looking to potentially fire down to first base and backpick a runner. Looks to have decent mobility back there. Wouldn't be surprised to see him try to pounce out and fire down to third.
Kerr's 1-1 to him is swung on and missed. So the count now 1-2 to Kerr. Struck out in the 4th, so definitely a possibility of being a strikeout victim here from Egnor. Runners on first and second, nobody out. Wolverines trail it by a score of 3-2. Egnor comes set at the chest, checks the runner at second, and fires. Fastball taken away for ball 2. Jimmy Kerr's locked in right now. I mean, he's ready to pounce if needed, and that's something we've seen in recent weeks. Kerr has been all over the ball.
And the thing for him now is going to be two-strike hitting. Not necessarily his biggest strength, but not something he's necessarily weak at as well.
And there you see that fouled back to the backstop. Kerr able to fight one off. Count stays 2-2.
Does have 29 strikeouts and 127 at-bats this season, including his today. So not a terribly high strikeout rate, but definitely susceptible to it. Be big for Egnor if he can get that, and a double play ball would then get him out of the inning.
Egnor comes set, first base side of the rubber, delivers, and Kerr fouls it back again. It looked like it could have come towards you, Austin. A little bit to the right there. I mean, that just barely got over the screen.
That was the perfect angle there. Almost had it. Do it again, Jimmy. Just hit it this far. This way a little bit.
So we'll do it again here. Count now 2-2 on Kerr. Jack Blomgren waiting on deck for his chance to perhaps drive in the game-tying run. The 2-2, poked away by Kerr once again, and some great two-strike hitting here from Kerr. You mentioned it, not necessarily one of his strengths, but you would never guess it from this at-bat.
No, not at all. He's doing exactly what you want. When you look up two-strike hitting in the dictionary, you see the definition for two-strike hitting, but Jimmy Kerr evidently has read that entry in the dictionary.
He's doing a textbook job right here.
And doing it exactly as you wish.
So once again, count 2-2, nobody out, runners on first and second. The pitch, and Kerr fouls it back once more. The Michigan dugout loving this. I mean, this is just a great at-bat here from Kerr. And, this is exactly what you want with two strikes in a position like this.
8 pitches already, and the longer this at-bat goes on, the more it tends to favor Jimmy Kerr. He's fouled off a few on the outside part of the plate, and now trying to go back inside there was Egnor. Still fouled it off to Jimmy Kerr. You'd love to see total plate coverage.
So it's feeling kind of like Groundhog Day here. First and second, nobody out. 2 balls, 2 strikes to Jimmy Kerr. Damon Egnor sets and checks over to second base. Nothing doing there. Kerr steps out, takes a practice swing.
I don't think there's really any intent there to pick off Lewis at second base. More just to kind of throw Kerr off his rhythm a little bit. He's in there, he comes up, fouls pitch off. Gets back in there, fouls pitch off. Gets back in there, fouls pitch off. Just throw him for a little bit of a loop.
So the 2-2 to Kerr. Line right through the right side. That's a base hit. They're going to hold Lewis at third base, and Jack Blomgren will come to the plate with the bases loaded. So 3 straight hits to start the inning here for the Wolverines. And, I don't want to get too sabermetric-y, Austin, but in a position like this, you would expect the team that's at the plate to score at least 2 runs, according to the Major League run expectancy matrix. Obviously, in college, it's going to be a little bit higher than that, but it's a good bet for Michigan to get at least 1 here.
Exactly. You have to expect, if Bowling Green somehow able to get out of this again without allowing a run, is absolutely huge. You're going to look back on that as a potential reason why they win this game in the end if they do win this game. But on the other hand, as you mentioned, very unlikely at this point. It looks to be at least a tie game going in the next inning for Michigan. They just have to make sure they actually execute it this time. They spoiled a couple chances already in this game. You don't want to let that slip away again.
Yeah, and if you're Bowling Green, this is one of the guys you want at the plate, Jack Blomgren. So far this season, he's got 30 strikeouts, also hitting .311, so can handle the wood, but metal, I guess, in this instance. But he rockets that one into the left center field gap. That's going to get down, and it could score too. Lewis comes home. He'll score. Nelson around third. He'll score. Blomgren into second base with a 2 RBI double and gives the Michigan Wolverines the lead.
And they got you again there, just as you mentioned that Blomgren's the guy you want up to bat. He finds the left center field gap. Not the hardest hit ball necessarily, and probably not helped by the rain as it's kind of trickling down here. But a huge hit there for the sophomore shortstop. Huge double. And not only does he do a great job of driving in 2 runs, gets himself into scoring position as well. That was a borderline, probably could have stayed at first, but another instance of Michigan thinking double out of the box and making it happen.
That's 4 straight hits now to start the 6th inning here. Still nobody out. Matthew Schmidt, the first baseman, looking for his first hit of the day. He's 0 for 1, reached on a hit by pitch, advanced to second on a wild pitch, and then moved to third on a stolen base, his first of the season. Egnor comes set at the chest. First pitch to Schmidt. Fastball taken for a strike.
I mentioned back after his first at-bat when he flew out to left field, put a decent swing on the ball, just got under it. And if he is going to be playing a little bit more with Jordan Brewer out, you'd love to see a big hit here go huge for his confidence down the stretch as you get into Big Ten play.
The 0-1 fouled back by Schmidt, so count runs 0-2 on the senior first baseman.
And Schmidt just 9 at-bats this year, but only 1 strikeout. Also worked a walk as well. So capable of hanging in there in a case like this.
Schmidt in the 2nd inning flew out to left field, and if you're Michigan, you'll take that because it probably means a run. The 0-2 taken high and away for a ball.
Yeah, especially where Schmidt hit it. He hit it just about to the warning track in left center, right near that well area where it gets a little bit deeper, going from the tall left field wall into left center. Easily a run, and Blom can probably move up to third on a hit like that as well.
So Egnor has faced the most batters out of any pitcher on this Falcon staff today. The 0-2 to Schmidt is fouled into the parking lot down the first baseline. He's faced 7 batters today. That's more than any other pitcher on the staff, and that's been their MO today, has just been kind of throw the kitchen sink at the Wolverines, each guy get an inning, and hopefully take this game home. And we've seen that work against Michigan in the past.
Yeah, we saw it work really just last week with Indiana State, kind of switching up the looks every couple innings or so, never really letting Michigan get into a rhythm.
1-2. Poked into center field. That should get a run home. Jake Wilson makes the catch. Tagging from third is Kerr. Tagging at second is Blomgren. And Michigan adds to their lead. It's now 5-3. The Wolverines lead it.
Exactly what you wanted there from Schmidt. I mean, ideally what he wanted to do is probably drive in a couple runs with a base hit, but stroking the ball to medium, deep center field and driving in a run is certainly a nice consolation prize.
And we're going to get a pitching change here. That'll be all for Damon Egnor. So he's still responsible for the runner on third base. But so far today, 1 1/3 innings pitched, 4 hits, 3 runs, plus Blomgren out there at third. Could potentially be a 4th. No walks, no strikeouts, so not the best day at the office, but considering what Bowling Green has had to work with today, did a pretty solid job.
I mean, exactly, and especially coming in last inning. That was the big inning for Bowling Green until this inning started off the way it did, with having a couple runners on first and third, nobody out. Was able to come in and worked out of it expertly. Just couldn't quite string it together starting off this 6th inning, and it was able to at least get 1 out here, not leaving his bullpen completely out to dry to get out of this one. But obviously, the confidence might not be as high as it would have had he left after last inning necessarily. But if you're Bowling Green, you also want to try to keep that magic going. It's really a delicate balance here during these midweek games and how to exactly manage the pitching staff and who's going out there and who's pitching how long, how many innings, trying to balance good outings with getting a longer outings per se, and just an instance of maybe just a little bit too long here.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely is a tough task for these college coaches to figure out who's going to go during these midweek games. We're going to get a new pitcher here, Andrew Emke, and he's got a pretty much straight over-the-top pitching motion. Not something you see a whole lot of in today's game anymore. A lot of guys coming from three quarters. He'll have to take care of Harrison Salter, and then Jordan Wogu is on deck. One out here for the Wolverines. They've already plated 3 runs here in the 6th with another waiting 90 feet away at third base.
And Emke, a local kid out of Macomb, Michigan, just north of Detroit. Stands in there 6'5". The freshman, as you mentioned, comes almost directly over the top with his delivery. Like that tomahawk type of motion with that 6'5" frame. Can really get some power on that over-the-top delivery. This looks to be his first outing of the year, his collegiate debut.
So we'll see if he's up to the task today. The runner just 90 feet away. That would extend Michigan's lead to 6-3 if able to score. And that's not a given, especially given how Michigan's executed today. They've had a big inning here in the 6th, but they stranded 2 runners in the 5th, a runner in the 1st, plus the base running mistake, and a runner in the 3rd. So it's definitely not out of the realm of possibility to keep this to a 5-3 game.
And 5-3, certainly manageable if you're Bowling Green. It's 2 runs feels far from an insurmountable lead, but if you let this one get away, if you let Salter, for example, get on base here with the single drive and a run, that's where things could potentially start to spiral and get away from you. So really stranding that runner on third is of high priority right now.
The good news, if you're Bowling Green, is that Michigan's got no tape on this guy. I mean, this is the first anybody is seeing of him as he throws a fastball high and away for ball 1, and that's definitely more velocity than we're used to seeing from this Bowling Green staff today. But, Michigan prides themselves. They just got TrackMan in this season, and they really like to be up to date on the advanced scouting reports and the analytics. Ball 2 here to Salter, and Emke struggling a little bit with control in the early goings. But when you run into a team like this, Bowling Green, with a freshman pitcher who has not thrown collegiately, I mean, what do you think you do there to attack that?
I mean, it helps when you throw a couple of balls. You can kind of see his motion, his delivery, what kind of speed he's throwing at as there's a third one right there.
It's got to be tough as a hitter to go up there literally not knowing what to expect. And it looks like Emke's staying fastball right now. I didn't see him throw any breakers in warm-up, so he could have a hook, but sticking fastball right now. The 3-0, taken inside, ball 4, and, well, welcome to college, a 4-pitch walk. And he'll have to face the top of this Wolverines lineup, Jordan Wogu now. He's 1 for 2 today, singled in the 1st, walked in the 3rd, lined out to short in the 5th.
As you mentioned, threw 1 at bat. Still not really a book on him at all. Given it was just 4 fastballs, all 4 missed, you didn't really get a chance to see what he likes to do in any sort of situations, what sort of put-away pitch he has by any means.
2 pitchers up in the Bowling Green bullpen right now. Wogu stands in the right-hand batter's box. Andrew Emke, the freshman for Bowling Green, working from the right-hand side of the rubber. First pitch is a breaker outside. So 5 straight pitches, 5 balls for the freshman. Runners on 1st and 3rd here for Michigan. They lead at 5-3 in the 6th. 1 out. Jordan Wogu at the plate. The 1-0 taken on the outside corner for a strike.
And at the very least, you're feeling a little bit better with yourself if you're Emke out there. Finally get that first strike on the board there, especially with the fastball that you struggled with. That's 4 of them earlier on.
The 1-1 to Wogu, a swing and a miss, and that's got to be a good sign if you're a freshman. the ability to induce a swing and miss on a fastball from Emke, and he just flat out beat Wogu there. It's 1-2.
Yeah, went up high with the fastball, had Wogu with those big eyes, and Wogu coming up empty, blown away, as you mentioned.
So the 1-2 now to Wogu. Taken inside, and the ball gets away. Blomgren trots home to score. Salter moves up to second, and Michigan has extended their lead to 3 here. It's a 4-run 6th inning with the ability to add more.
And you mentioned Michigan not having much of a book. The other side of the coin is that Niedbauer behind the plate doesn't really have too much experience working with Emke as well, so trying to frame that breaking ball, just let it clip off the left side of his glove and get back behind him for the what should go as a passed ball. It's listed as a wild pitch right now.
So the count 2-2 now to Wogu. Harrison Salter on second base. Wogu calls time, steps out for a brief second. Steps back in now, ready for the pitch from Emke. The count 2-2. Emke checks second and delivers. Ball taken high and away for ball 3. So the count now full to Jordan Wogu.
We'll see what Wogu's thinking here. He's got the option 3-2. He can choke up and go with that 2-strike approach, or kind of just treat it as, almost like a first pitch of an at-bat.
The 3-2 to Wogu. Taken low and away for ball 4. So back-to-back walks to start a college career for Andrew Emke, and he'll have to face a future, probably top 3-round pick in Jesse Franklin.
We'll see if he gets the chance here. Bowling Green's dugout still pretty still. Looks like he is going to get the chance here.
So Franklin steps in. He's had a little bit of a tough day at the plate. 0 for 3, a strikeout, a line out, and a pop out.
A line out far from necessarily a bad swing at all. Absolute rope right to first base. Ended up a double play.
Franklin swings and misses through the first pitch.
Not the greatest sign for Jesse Franklin, though, when he's swinging and missing, coming up empty like that. So he's having a bit of an off day in general.
So 1 out, runners on first and second here. The pitch to Franklin. Popped up. That'll get out of play behind home plate. Lands just about, 20 feet in front of us in the stands.
Almost had a chance at it.
So 0-2 here to Franklin. The rain has pretty much subsided here in Ann Arbor. I know there's a chance for more later this evening, but hopefully we'll be able to get the game in before then.
Looking promising this far.
The 0-2 to Franklin. He pokes that one foul down the third base line. A good 2-strike approach there from the Michigan center fielder, and we'll do it again.
If Jesse Franklin has anything to say about it here, when he's down 0-2 in the count, going to fight to stay alive and really draw this out.
Franklin, the 8th batter to come to the plate for Michigan in this inning. Michigan's already plated 4 in the home 6th. The pitch to Franklin, and he ropes it right back up the middle. A base hit. Not a good read there from Salter. They're going to send him anyway, and the throw's going to come into third base, so Michigan adds another on a Jesse Franklin single. And just like that, they lead at 7-3.
Could have been a double potentially. As you mentioned, Salter not the greatest read out there at second, but at the same time playing it almost cautiously. Doesn't see the shortstop behind him when he's taking his lead from second. Doesn't know if it's going to get through until it does actually make its way into the center field turf. And that prevented Wogu from going right away. He had to stop at second. Franklin took a huge turn over at first. Almost got halfway to second before slamming on the brakes and sprinting back. He'll take the RBI single, though, especially with only one gone, and now you got the heart of your order coming up.
Dominic Clemente, the third-place hitter for Michigan, 1 for 2 with a walk today. The lone hit, a double back in the third inning to right field. First pitch takes it outside for ball 1. 1 out here for Clemente. He's the 9th hitter to come to the plate for Michigan in this inning. They've scored 5. If you're Andrew Emke, I'm not quite sure what there is to do at this point. You're giving him your best stuff, And just missing and having that single right back up the middle as Clemente fouls it back to even up the count in 1-1.
And here's your question for you, Max. I've heard this debate before. When is it considered batting around? Is it when you send your 9th hitter, you've batted around the order, or is it when you send your 10th hitter up, and that's batting around?
So for me, I think it's when you send your 10th hitter up. I think that if you send 9 to the plate, that's sending 9 to the plate. Once that 10th hitter comes up, you've batted around.
Agreed.
So Clemente with the opportunity here to get the Michigan lineup to bat around. The runners go, and Clemente a drive to deep left center field, ranging over is Wilson. The dive, and he makes the catch. A great play there by Jake Wilson. We've seen the center fielders today flashing the leather, and Jordan Wogu and Jesse Franklin have to scamper back to their respective bases. An incredible play there from the center fielder, Jake Wilson, to save what probably would have been a 2-run double.
Yeah, that might have won up Jesse Franklin officially. Franklin went a long way for Hayes, made a great airborne dive. Jake Wilson came all the way from shaded off towards the right center field part of center field, all the way into one of the deepest parts of the ballpark in left center field, slid and caught the ball. It couldn't have been more than a couple inches off the ground. Absolutely stellar play there by Wilson to save probably 2 runs.
So now the Wolverines have batted around, Austin.
There you go.
Miles Lewis comes up to the plate for the second time this inning. He singled and scored in his first at-bat. On the day, he's 1 for 3. Takes the first pitch, a fastball for strike 1. And look, a great play there from Jake Wilson. Don't want to take anything away from that, but still really, really solid contact by the Wolverines.
Again, yes, they've been hitting the ball hard all day, and now the hits column's starting to really note that with 9 hits on the board.
I mean, they have 5 hits alone this inning. Sorry. Yeah, 5 hits and 2 walks.
There you go. Just keep the line moving if you're the Wolverines.
So the count now 1-1 after Lewis takes a ball. 2 outs, runners on first and second for Michigan. Miles Lewis started in right field today. We've seen him shift around the corners this season. First pitch swung on and missed, and Lewis now behind 1-2.
It was a little interesting to see him come out in right field as opposed to left, with Clemente not playing as much this season. Probably doesn't have as much experience with what seems to be a little bit tougher of a play at that left field wall. But perhaps just trying to get Lewis in that wider right field, a little more speed than Clemente.
Yeah, he also has a better arm, so that could play into it. The count 1-2 on Lewis. The pitch swung on and missed, strike 3, and Lewis goes down swinging for the second time today, but not before Michigan makes a dent in the Bowling Green lead. They score 5 in the inning on 6 hits, no errors, and leave 2 on base. And at the end of 6, it's the Michigan Wolverines 7, the Bowling Green State Falcons 3. You're listening to Michigan Baseball on WCBN FM Ann Arbor.
Yeah, I mean, there's really not much else to say there. When you send 10 runners up and score 5, it's a pretty good inning, I'd say. And now Walker Cleveland going out with a completely different mindset that Michigan has had over the last couple of innings, really trailing by a run for most of this ball game, aside from when they had a 1-run lead going into the third. Now have the biggest lead of the ball game for either team, 4 runs, and a completely different outlook on the mound. You can make a mistake or two. It really comes down to throwing strikes, letting the ball get put in play. Walker Cleveland's specialty. We'll see if he can induce more weak contact here, potentially get out of this inning quick, and see how long Walker Cleveland can go in this ball game before turning it over to another bullpen arm to finish things off here on this Wednesday midweek action. Officially Maction as well.
It is officially Maction. So Walker Cleveland coming out for another inning of work here. Working with a lead for the first time today. We're through 2 hours and 19 minutes here at the Fish. 2/3 of the way through this Wednesday afternoon contest. The first hitter will be the leadoff man, Mike Malowitz, for Bowling Green. So far today, 0 for 2 with a walk.
And important here for Walker Cleveland to come out and shut the door. You don't want Bowling Green to really get any semblance of getting back into the game.
First pitch, pop foul down the right field line. That'll get into the bullpen. Some Bowling Green players running out of the way down there.
I mean, and conversely for the Falcons, this is the time where you give a 5 spot there in the bottom of the 6th. If you can scratch across a run or two, put a little dent in the lead, you feel good about staying in this ball game as it goes along. It doesn't quite feel quite as demoralizing to give up the lead and go down 4.
Malowitz takes the 0-1 from Cleveland for a called strike. Now 0-2. And if Malowitz is able to get on base here, that would be huge because Scott, Wilson, and Croy have been killing it today. I mean, they've been pretty much the entire offense for this team. Nice hack there from Malowitz to stay alive. Count remains 0-2.
As you mentioned, 7 for 9, and I know at least Scott there, the one out that he's made was a ball basically the track in center field. That could have been a 3-run homer potentially, or rather a 2-run home run.
Strike 3 there from Walker Cleveland. Paints the inside corner and sends Mike Malowitz back to the dugout for the second time on strikes today.
And just textbook there from Walker Cleveland. That's been somewhat of his MO since coming into the game, is working the inside part of the plate to these right-handers, working with that 2-seamer changeup, moving back arm side on the inside corner, and executing it to perfection yet again right there. His second strikeout of the day.
His second strikeout of the day, just the 5th for Michigan Wolverines pitching. Now he'll face Jeff Scott, who made that unreal... Sorry, that was Jake Wilson, Jeff Scott the left fielder. Scott today, though, doing it at the plate. 2 for 3 with 2 doubles and 2 runs. Count now 1-0 to him. And he gets hit right on the rear end. He'll go down to first base. I mean, didn't even make a dent in him.
I mean, it didn't really have a chance to move out of the way either. First pitch missed just a little bit low, and then Walker Cleveland tried to do what he's been doing since he came into the ball game and hit that inside corner, which ran a little bit too far inside there and caught a whole lot of Jeff Scott.
So the man of the hour here now at the plate, Jake Wilson, after making that diving catch in center field, comes up with a runner on first and 1 out and fouls the first pitch back. It's not going to get any closer than that, Austin. I mean, that was literally like 3 feet to your left. That was right there.
It was so close. I can, if there wasn't a window here, I can reach out and touch where it hit. You're right. I think that's it. That was the one.
So 0-1 now to Wilson, taken away for a ball. Wilson 2 for 3 today, 2 singles, scored a run. Last time these two teams faced off, Wilson was 1 for 5 with an RBI, a walk, and a run over the weekend. The 1-1 from Cleveland is foul tipped. Now 2 strikes on Wilson.
And so far in this at-bat, a good job by Cleveland not to let that hit-by pitch get to him. Gets right back out ahead of Wilson here, making good pitches, staying at the bottom of the zone, staying with what he wants to do.
So the 1-2 now from Cleveland. He steps off. Just wants to reset it real quick. Cleveland comes set. The pitch. Grounded down to first base. Off of the glove of Matthew Schmidt and into right field. Scott is going to go first to third. Heads up base running there. And Bowling Green's in business here in the top of the 7th.
And the turf can be nice for nice true hops out there for the infielders. At the same time, it gives you a couple hits as a hitter as well, as we saw right there. Pound the ball into the ground and get it to jump right over the head of Schmidt over that first base. Far from the first time and far from the last time, we'll see a high chopper result on a single on the infield.
So Salter stepping out, giving the infield the signs. Should Wilson decide to run, and Wilson has been known to run. He's tied for the team lead in stolen bases in terms of players in the starting lineup. He's 7 for 10. Cleveland checks to first. Wilson slides back safely. Brad Croy at the dish now for Bowling Green State. Started today at first baseman. He's 3 for 3 with a single in the first, a double in the third, a single in the 5th, and 2 RBI. Cleveland checks over to first again. And when these two teams met last year, Croy went 2 for 5 with 2 RBI on the weekend. The only game he didn't hit was the game where he pitched.
Of course.
So a two-way guy for the Falcons. Golfs the first pitch to third base and unable to handle it as Kerr. A run will come in for Bowling Green, and that's going to be Croy's 4th hit of the day.
Yeah, that'll go down as a base hit there. Kerr diving towards that 5.5 hole over there on the left side between short and third. Just tipped right off the glove. Looked like he might have been able to field it. Got a good piece of leather on it, did Kerr. Just couldn't quite corral it. It bounced away. Definitely a single there. RBI single for Croy. He's racking up.
Yeah, I mean, Croy's having a
today.
savage day. 3 singles, a double, and 3 RBIs. That's like,
it's a quality
if I
day.
played college baseball for 4 years, I think I could maybe get 1 hit.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good.
Doing all right for himself.
Chris Fetter coming out now, having a little chat with Walker Cleveland. We see a left-hander down there in the Michigan bullpen. Looks like it could be Jack White. Not quite sure. I mean, Michigan's got a lot of lefty. They've just got 2 lefties in the bullpen, a lot of righties. They've used Page already. Cleveland a lefty. Angelo Smith started it, so it's either Ben Kaiser or Jack White. It looks like Ben Kaiser.
It looks like Kaiser
sidearm delivery.
Here. Yeah.
So Kaiser getting loose in the Michigan bullpen. Walker Cleveland on the mound trying to work out of this jam he's created for himself in the top of the 7th. He'll have to get through Neil Lambert, who is 1 for 2 today, a double in the first, sac fly in the third with an RBI. First pitch, Lambert shows bunt but takes it outside for ball 1.
And Lambert also the one who started off that 8-4 or 8-5-4 double play, in which Jake Wilson was caught out there at second base, leaving just a little bit too early. He's out there at second base again. You can be sure if that comes up, he's not making that same mistake.
I guarantee you he will not make that same mistake. And the ball in the dirt hops away from Salter, so the runners move up a base each. Now 2 runners in scoring position for Neil Lambert, and now it's a little bit of a scary situation if you're the Wolverines and Walker Cleveland, because first and second with 1 out, you still have the opportunity to turn the double play, but here with second and third and 1 out, a long fly ball should score a run, especially given the speed of Jake Wilson, who's on third base. And a single could score 2, which would cut your lead down to 1. So Cleveland's going to have to execute here.
Most definitely, this has become a much more critical situation. As you mentioned, ground ball doesn't get you out of the inning necessarily anymore.
Another pitch there by Cleveland taken by Lambert, and it's 3-0 to the shortstop. So if you put this guy on third, do you bring the infield in? On first, I mean. Do you bring the infield in?
At the corners.
Corners.
Double play down up the middle. I mean, the tying run would still be at first base.
A ball 4 there to Lambert, and we'll see what the coaches do here. I have a feeling we're going to see Kaiser, if not to Manorik, then certainly to Neibauer.
Most definitely. I don't see Cleveland lasting a couple more batters unless he gets out of the inning here, and he's not even going to make it here to Manorik.
Yeah, so Coach Bakich now coming out and asking Ben Kaiser to come in and put out the fire that Walker Cleveland has started. So Cleveland, though, a pretty solid day at the office. He's responsible for all 3 runners on base, but in total, 2 1/3 innings, 4 hits, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts, 1 earned run so far.
And the eye test is almost even better than what the numbers show that he's been doing in today's game. Obviously, the 4 hits and 2 1/3 doesn't look great, but really only 1 hard hit ball. That was that RBI single off the glove of Kerr. The other 2, couple bloop singles. Hopper that got over the first baseman Schmidt's head. Doing a nice job was Walker Cleveland, but this is kind of the way baseball works, and even if you're following the process right, the results don't necessarily always look perfect or as you believe they should. It will be Ben Kaiser coming into the ball game. Kaiser's going to make his 15th appearance on the year for the Wolverines. Started a game in there, recorded a save in there. He's 1-0, 3.26 is his ERA this season. He's pitched in 19 1/3 innings, struck out 18, walked just 5. Hitters hit 197 against the Wolverine left-hander. And Kaiser, the redshirt junior out of Portage, Michigan, will come into a bases-loaded jam here, try to work out of it for the Wolverines, try to maintain their 3-run lead over Bowling Green here in the top of the 7th inning. Situation, Eric Bakich goes to his veteran to try to get out of it after the freshman Walker Cleveland got into a little bit of that jam to start things off. And really just a ground ball away from getting out of it, but still got to be careful. You don't want to give Minorik anything to hit. You do have the platoon advantage if you're Minorik. With that righty-lefty matchup right now. And Minorik 1 for 3 today with a single back in the 3rd. Also was grounded out to 3rd and struck out in the ball game today. As Kaiser looks in for the sign, comes set. And the first pitch to Minorik is high for ball 1.
So Kaiser, one of the senior captains this year, done a pretty solid job when all is said and done this season. He's been used as one of the primary relievers out of this bullpen, and a 3.26 ERA, whip under 1. The 1-0 from him. Chopped foul down the 3rd base line. 1-1.
And a case there of Minorik maybe getting a little bit jumpy with the bases loaded. Look like that one might miss down and in, put him ahead in the count 2-0, but saw one down in that he thinks he liked, think he might get some hard contact on, shoot it through the left side, and swung, got a piece of it, fouled it off.
Kaiser, the sidewinder, comes set on the first base side. The pitch. Line foul down the first base line, and so Kaiser comes in, gets ahead 1-2. This is exactly what you want to see if you're Coach Eric Bakich.
Most definitely want to see him pounding the strike zone and pounding both sides of the strike zone, notably that first strike that was fouled off on the inside part of the plate, second one on the outside part of the plate. You can go pretty much wherever you want right now if you're Kaiser.
The question is whether you throw a breaking pitch after Salter had a little trouble blocking one earlier this inning.
And
the 1-2 is taken for strike 3, a fastball right on the inside part of the plate. And that's kind of been the kryptonite of these Bowling Green hitters so far today. We've seen 2 called strikeouts on inside fastballs in this inning. And Ben Kaiser 1 out closer to working a little magic here in the 7th.
Yeah, you just mentioned maybe not wanting to go to the breaking ball, but possibly looking for it there was Minorik, and was absolutely frozen on that fastball in the inside corner. So it looks like we're going to get another pinch hitter here in the catcher spot to avoid that lefty-lefty matchup we talked about just a little bit.
So we're going to get another pinch hitter in the catcher spot. Nick Neibauer, the catcher, coming out of the game, so presumably a catcher pinch hitting for him. It's going to be Ty Sunkin, actually, an infielder coming in, the redshirt senior, and he takes a ball high and away on the first pitch. Sunkin, I don't even know how you say that, hometown. He's from Ohio, though. He's an in-state kid.
Wasian?
Yeah, I was thinking Wazian. I don't know. Maybe that's just my New York accent.
Maybe, I don't know. I know
an Ohio kid, and a big bopper, too,
Wasian.
for this team. He takes the second pitch, 4 strikes, so the count now 1-1 on him. He's hitting .327 this season, a .418 slugging percentage. Not quite sure why he didn't start today, perhaps just a scheduled day off with the midweek game, but he's been one of their better hitters this season.
Most definitely has a little bit of pop in the bat, too. 5 doubles on the season and just 55 at-bats.
Fouls one back, and now the count runs to 1-2 on Sunkin.
And he seems like he's got a good frame on him. The redshirt senior, 5'11", 205. The right-handed batter's box has a little bit of power in his frame for sure.
The base is loaded, 2 outs here. Ben Kaiser on the mound. He comes set. The pitch to Sunkin. Swung on and foul tipped. Could not hang onto it was the catcher, Harrison Salter, so we'll do it again. Kaiser nearly getting out of the inning unscathed. Takes a little bit of a walk down near the shortstop, and Sets back up on the rubber. Sunken steps in.
And you saw Salter there almost do a half kind of look off to the side, thinking he might have should grab that one. High fastball tipped just right out of the glove.
So Kaiser looks in, takes a sign, and then calls for time. So Salter will reset everything and give his sign to Kaiser. Got a righty getting loose down in the Michigan bullpen. I'm assuming that's Willie Weiss. Kaiser and Salter not quite on the same page here, taking a little while to get the signs in order. But Kaiser finally comes set. The 0-2. Taken low and inside for ball one. So the count now 1-2 with 2 outs and the bases juiced here. Sorry, 2-2.
I mean, it's also possible there that Kaiser wanted to run through the signs a couple times, throw off Sunken at the plate, given he's almost exclusively thrown fastballs.
We'll see what Kaiser goes with here. The
This might
2-2.
be-
Swung on and missed. Safe at first base. So the ball got to the backstop and a run came home. Sunken didn't initially break to first, but ended up making it safely all the way down to the first base bag.
Yeah, and that's a crucial wild pitch there. It's going to look like it's ended up, and it's killed Michigan just about all season, have been those wild pitches and pass balls. When they do kind of unravel in innings, it's exactly this type of situation. Couple runners get on. You get a wild pitch here and there to put runners in scoring position. They come around to score. That's when this Michigan team kind of unravels, and that's really been their downfall at times this season, in addition to the occasional fielding error on the road.
So it's going to be a strikeout for Kaiser and a wild pitch. So Kaiser, 2 batters faced, 2 strikeouts, but giving up the run there.
And crucial for Michigan to get out of this inning now, because I did see a little bit of lightning over the right field wall. Not officially in the area to set off the storm guard systems or anything.
So the first pitch to Anthony Smith is taken low for a ball. Smith today 0 for 3. Flew out to right, popped out to short, and grounded out to short.
You don't want this game tied after 6.5. If this game ends up being suspended in some case. Much rather prefer to finish off this inning, have the lead, potentially just call it after 6.5.
So the tying run out there on second base. Kaiser, the pitch, fouled right to the backstop. Count even now at 1-1.
That's a good swing there from Smith. Got a pitch he liked, just not quite able to straighten it out and get enough of it. Timed it up well from Kaiser. If he can flip that 180 degrees, send that out into fair territory, that's a 2-run single.
The tying run out there on second base. Grounded down to Nelson at second. And Schmidt covers first. That'll do it for the Falcons in the 7th inning. They push 2 runs across, though, both earned after the Kaiser wild pitch. 2 hits, no errors, and they leave the bases loaded in the 7th inning. We're stretch time here at Ray Fisher Stadium. It's Michigan 7 and Bowling Green 5. You're listening to Michigan Baseball on WCBN FM Ann Arbor.
And despite the wild pitch there, Kaiser a nice job of getting out of the inning for the Wolverines. Bowling Green able to get a couple in that inning, make it a little bit closer, but if you're Michigan, you do feel good about where you're sitting right now, up 2 runs, going into the 7th inning stretch. You're going to send the 5, 6, and 7 hitters up here in the 7th inning with a chance to get those couple of runs back. And as I mentioned, inclement weather potentially on the way. Almost a game of just stay in the lead as long as you can, if whatever comes first, whether it's the weather, whether it's inning number 9. It's just a game about holding the lead at this point, and that means tacking on when you get the chance. That means holding Bowling Green down just as Kaiser did to an extent last inning before eventually getting out of it.
So we're going to have some changes here for Bowling Green. First and foremost, Andrew Emke coming out of the game. The book is closed on him. He went 2/3 of an inning, 1 hit, 1 run, 2 walks, and a strikeout. Replacing him is Danny Weidmeyer, the right-handed freshman from Saline, Michigan, right down the road here. Ty Sunken is going to come into the game in right field, as the first pitch from Weidmeyer is taken for a strike. So the 0-1 to Nelson. Grounded down the third baseline. Fair, and it could go for extra bases. Nelson rounds first. He'll head to second. Jeff Scott fields it in the corner, and Nelson strolls into second base with a stand-up double and a leadoff hit for the Michigan Wolverines.
And that's exactly what you want to see. They give up a few runs back last inning. You're going to try to get them immediately back, and a leadoff double is a good way to start off a little bit of a rally here in the bottom of the 7th inning. Anytime you're getting the leadoff runner on, it's a good thing and a good sign for your offense in general, especially when you're getting immediately into scoring position.
And we have a new catcher as well, Joe McGinnis, behind the dish now. So a completely new battery. Jimmy Kerr at the plate for Michigan. Takes the first pitch low for ball 1. Kerr today 2 for 3 with a home run and a single. Scored both times. Has 2 RBIs.
Yeah, it switches pretty much all the way around the diamond for the most part. As you hear the storm alarms going off, it sounds like.
So I believe that means we are going to be delayed here at Ray Fisher Stadium. Players evacuating the field.
Jimmy Kerr doesn't want to leave the batter's box.
Yeah,
the way he's hitting
frankly,
right now.
I wouldn't either. On fire today. But they're going to suspend the game here at Ray Fisher Stadium right now. Blake Nelson on second base with a 1-0 count. Jimmy Kerr at the plate. Michigan leads it by a score of 7-5 here in the bottom of the 7th. If they end up deciding to suspend this game, it is suspended. If they end up deciding to just call the game, Michigan will take the victory by a score of 7-3. Nelson's hit will be taken away, as will all of the work that Kaiser did in the top of the inning. But, a lightning delay means we're going to get at least a 30-minute.
I believe it's a half hour from the last lightning strike. So I just saw another one out there just now, so that probably tacks on another 30 minutes.
Well, if we take a look at the weather report right now in Ann Arbor, light rain and a thunderstorm starting in 15 minutes. So it's not looking great that we're going to be able to get the rest of this game in anytime before late tonight.
Right. We haven't had any official calling of the game yet. Head coach Eric Brackich talking with the umpires just now. Everybody will make their way to their designated areas.
Yeah, I'm no meteorologist, but if you take a look at the radar, you have this little belt of yellow heading heading east towards Ann Arbor from the Kalamazoo area, and that's never a good sign when you want to get a baseball game in.
Yeah, it looks like it's around Jackson right now, so it'd be about a 40-minute drive roughly from Jackson. I don't know how fast these storms are moving, but yeah, could be a little bit of a delay here. So I think we're gonna tune out for now. If we do resume this game, we'll finish it off for you.
Well, we will be back with you if the coverage continues. Be sure to stay tuned in on the WCBN Sports Twitter account. And hopefully we get to be back with you for the end of this game. But if not, it's been a pleasure, Austin. Thanks for having me on for the one game this season.
Of course, glad to have you back on in the triumphant return of Max Brill to WCBN Sports.
Yeah, and so hopefully we get to talk to you guys later, give you the rest of this game. But if not, it's been a pleasure to bring it to you. I'm Max Brill for Austin Falco. Hopefully this is just a see you later. But if not, good evening and go blue.